19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July, for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I had the most interesting conversation with someone yesterday about, titles that please you and titles that may well irritate you. So maybe the pleasing for me would be, if you're calling somebody a champion, because it's very much part of my own personal ethos, right? But what about those that irritate you? For me, listen, I'm not a lighty, I know that. But if someone gets introduced on any platform and the best word you could find to introduce that person is veteran, then for me that's a no-no, because immediately the audience looks and says, well, that person's older, about to retire. Now, clearly there could be something else you could use, another word to use to identify that person or to describe that person than just veteran. The other one is influencer. Nothing wrong with being a person of influence. I think that's just brilliant. But to simply put somebody on a bio and say so-and-so is an influencer, it just somehow does not work. So what for you? What are the descriptions for you that do not work? You can tell me, because I'd love to get your thoughts on that right away. In the meantime, let's get to the show. This is the National Pulse, and my name is Ashraf Garda. So much to talk about. We're going to talk about AfriForum and Julius Malema, because that's going to dominate the story. I have no doubt about it today on the National Pulse. But there's more to come. We'll also talk about Donald Trump being rather irritated by certain world leaders coming together. It's almost like, why don't you invite me to that party, if you get my point. To call in, save this number, 086 000 2032. And then WhatsApp 0614 104 107 in voice note or text form. If you're a first-time caller, let me know. If you're a first-time listener, you can tweet it out as well. When you do tweet, use that hashtag, The National Pulse. So let's get to the big issue that I'm pretty certain is going to move the National Pulse today. And that is got to be the issue of AfriForum and their latest position regarding regarding Julius Malema. Did I say Donald Trump? No, it's certainly not meant as Donald Trump, but definitely Julius Malema, right? So they have lots to say. Let's pick up on this issue here. AfriForum and the Southern African Agri Initiative, which is SAAI, I suppose you'd call it a SAI, right? They've requested that countries worldwide impose targeted sanctions against Julius Malema. That's what they're requesting. Now, why are they doing just that? Let's find out. In fact, with Ernst van Zyl, the head of public relations at AfriForum. Ernst, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Now, there's lots, of course, Julius Malema, kill the boer, kill the farmer. Many people talk about it. You have your own positions on this. And yes, there was a Human Rights Commission ruling on him just about a week or so ago. But tell me what you're trying to achieve here. What do you want to do?
Right. So particularly with this campaign, you're 100% correct. There's many court cases and different campaigns and stories attached to Mr. Malema. But with this campaign in particular that you're referencing here is a call from AfriForum and SAI for further international repercussions for Julius Malema for, among other things, inciting violence against minorities in South Africa. And this comes after many years of Julius Malema getting away with hate speech with impunity through chants like kill the boer, kill the farmer, a chant that the South African Constitutional Court disappointingly said that they don't even want to hear the case regarding it, where I think the Constitutional Court let minorities down. But on the other side, that's exactly why AfriForum is now taking this matter internationally, because the fight doesn't end there.
So help me understand this. I mean, the ConCourt feels that they don't need to rule on this issue, but there's been other issues, the Human Rights Commission ruling on certain issues of hate speech last week. Isn't that exactly what South Africa is? We're a constitutional democracy. Some things you personally win and some things you lose, but respecting the rule of law is paramount to the way we do business and the way we live our lives. Why would you feel there's a need now to go elsewhere?
Right. Well, this is not a disrespect of the rule of law in South Africa. This is simply a stance from AfriForum regarding a chant which very clearly is hate speech. When it comes to the chanting about kill the Boer, kill the farmer, inciting violence against people based on their identity, AfriForum feels very strongly here that this is, in fact, a case of hate speech and that it does endanger people's lives. Something endangers people's lives, you do what you can to fight it. And this is AfriForum doing what we can after we've already exhausted our domestic options in regards to putting an end
All
to
right.
this type of incitement.
So who are you approaching and what are you asking them to do?
Well, at the moment, we're not approaching someone specifically. We've now just revealed and published our Malema dossier, which is a document that was set up or created by AfriForum's research department and also in collaboration with our private prosecution unit under the leadership of Harry Nell. And this document outlines the entire history of Julius Malema, gives a comprehensive account of, among other things, Malema's hate speech, his incitement to violence, the serious allegations of corruption against him, and examples of his statements in support of terrorist organizations and terrorist acts. And this will form the foundation of our international campaign to demand and put pressure on for more consequences internationally. One of those would be an example, something that's already happened, was when the UK government this year denied Mr. Malema a visa based on the fact that they, and in their own words, his rhetoric that incites violence against people, and that's not something that is conducive to peace in their own society, so they deem them not welcome there. And that's just an example of the type of actions that we'd like to see. So there's more to come of that, hopefully.
All right, but this sounds like if I can call it this, an international blackballing of a person. I mean, what would be the end goal around this? I mean, what's your bottom line to this?
Well, the angle is that this is an individual who incites violence and hatred, racial hatred in South Africa, and he's not facing the consequences that he deserves for that type of rhetoric and that type of incitement of violence that destroys lives and endangers people. There needs to be consequences to put a stop to it.
Now, I mean, let's be fair. There are many people who call in on this radio station who do not agree with Julius Malema at all. They don't agree with the stance of kill the Boer, kill the farmer. They feel, yes, it may have had relevance at a certain time. It may not be relevant now, but that's another question. But do I get a sense here that you're saying, since you're not happy with the way he's been judged or in South Africa, in fact, de facto, you want him tried internationally?
Well, not happy is putting it very lightly. I think it's outrageous that someone who calls for the murder of people based on their skin color gets away with it and can continue doing it without any consequences. I think that's unacceptable.
Now, there's been lots of conversations about that, which is that if and we know what the ruling was around kill the Boer, kill the farmer, and I know you voiced your displeasure, but certainly that's the ruling as it stands now. I mean, in essence, you are saying I want him to be tried and convicted elsewhere.
I want there to be consequences for someone that incites violence against people based on their skin color. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is that, which and I've certainly heard the EFF position on this one, to say if it was meant to be literal, I'm talking about kill the Boer, kill the farmer specifically, right? Then in fact, let's call it the strike rate of people being killed because of that outburst is actually uselessly poor. It's a non-event. It hasn't happened. So where's been the response to that?
That's not the standard for incitement of violence. The standard for incitement of violence is the inciting of violence, not whether the amount of people that go through with it. And then you have to answer the question of when Julius Malema was asked under oath during his court case to pledge that he will never call for the slaughtering of white people. Why did he refuse to make that pledge if this is only metaphorical or not literal?
Okay, I hear you, and again, I mean, some may debate that because often enough groups like yours have actually argued that his pronouncements have been the direct cause of farmers being killed, and the flip side has been the argument to say the numbers just don't tally. I'm talking about the action that follows a pronouncement, and I
Well,
know
there
what
have
you've
been
said.
far
Yeah.
murder cases. There have been far murder cases that have been directly linked to this chant, with attackers chanting this chant at the crime scene, and this chant being linked to those crimes. At what point then is it? At what point does it become something that you should be taking a stance against? It seems like if there's 5 cases or 10 cases, you think that's not enough, but it has to be 50 or 100 cases before you are allowed to take a stance against it. I think calling for the murder of people based on their race is wrong, whether that be 1 case linked to it or 50.
Let's just turn this thing sideways in terms of the position of organizations like AfriForum before regarding South African farmers and the lobbying that has taken place in the USA. I mean, what for you has been the lessons learned around that?
Well, the lesson learned is that international pressure has a major effect, and that at first you have to try to solve the problem domestically, as AfriForum have done. But when the government gives you a cold shoulder and tells you that they are not going to talk to you, or that they refuse to talk to you, then international pressure is a viable and legitimate way of getting the government to come to the table to talk about an issue that's very serious, or to acknowledge an issue. We've seen that in 2025, where the South African government has been forced to confront issues that up until this point they just out and out refused to even talk about. And now they at least are out in the open talking about a lot of these issues, even if their response is inadequate. That's a positive lesson in regards to international pressure works. And if you can't solve something domestically, then that is an avenue that you can use to bring about change in your country.
What about the sense that specifically what's happened in the USA, in fact, has let the genie out of the bottle? That means you may be justified in certain points, but it's come to a position where there are elements of the lobbying that you now can't control. I mean, there's not a day that Donald Trump pronounced it on South Africa. I mean, some of it may be true, but not everything is true. And now you can't control that narrative.
Well, the issues that the United States have mentioned are not issues that AfriForum made up. These are issues that are real and issues that the South African government refuses to address. So if you look at the four criteria that were given from the United States to the South African government in order the criteria to normalize relations, none of them have been addressed. The one was that the South African government, and the president specifically, needs to condemn the chant "Kill the Boer." That hasn't happened. They need to prioritize farm murders by giving it the category of priority, including it under the category of priority crimes, which also include gender-based violence and rhino poaching. There needs to be a commitment from the South African government that there will be no expropriation of people's property without fair and market-based compensation, which they also haven't done. And now this week, the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, has praised the land confiscations that happened under the dictator Mugabe in Zimbabwe, which is also just flying in the face of that requirement. And then the last requirement that the United States gave South Africa to normalize relations is that there needs to be an end to race-based and discriminatory policies in the country, which they have also doubled down on. So these are things that are between the South African government and the United States. AfriForum is urging the South African government to address these issues because the United States says that they need to be addressed, and these are real issues. But the South African government has refused up until this point, so that's on them for whatever consequences comes from their ostrich strategy of just putting their head in the sand and hoping that the problem goes away.
Okay, I want to pick up on the issue of social cohesion and South Africa's sovereignty, which we'll do right after this.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org by 30 September.
September is Deaf Awareness Month, a time to celebrate the deaf community, promote inclusion, empowerment, and break communication barriers. Let's listen with our hearts and not our ears, learn and embrace a South African sign language. Join us throughout September for commemoration events, activities that educate, connect, and inspire. Visit our website, foundationnima.org, for more information. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
I am Baba Lobisha, the Executive Mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. The Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality has recently adopted a 21.6 billion budget for the 2025-2026 financial year. This budget, shaped by extensive public participation, prioritizes critical needs such as electricity, sanitation, roads, and water infrastructure in the fight against crime. As part of implementation of this budget, strict measures have been introduced to fast-track spending, improve accountability, and ensure that every cent delivers real impact. This is more than just a budget. It's a commitment to community-driven service delivery that will not only improve our lives, but create an enabling environment for investment that will grow economy and create jobs. Together, we make our municipality work.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, you know what? I don't have to even ask for you to call in. You're already wanting to call in. Many people doing so. Others sending out WhatsApp comments. But you can do that right away. To call in live, 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp text messages or voice notes, 30 seconds max, please. 0614 104 107. And you can tweet using the hashtag The National Pulse by tagging SFM Radio and tagging me as well. With me, of course, Ernst van Zyl. He's part of AfriForum, their spokesperson, and with the news that AfriForum and the Southern African Agri Initiative, SAAI, have confirmed they now have requested countries globally to impose targeted sanctions against Julius Malema for the use of the chant "Kill the Boer." Let's conclude with this issue, and so I'm just going to pick up a quote from the political analyst Renee Oosthuizen in The Citizen, and she's saying that escalating this issue to international level risks undermining South Africa's sovereignty and legal autonomy. And Renee continues saying this action may inadvertently exacerbate existing societal divisions rather than promote social cohesion. And over-reliance on external punitive measures, such as sanctions, establishes a dangerous precedent that will undermine South Africa's judicial integrity, end quote. Right, your comment on that?
Well, there's a very simple comment when it comes to particularly societal harmony and cohesion. There's a major threat to that, and the major threat is politicians who say things like all white people are criminals and should be treated as such. That's Julius Malema, his direct quote. He also says white people cannot be victims in his eyes in South Africa. That's what he said during his court case. He tells his supporters to be killing machines. That is someone who is a threat to cohesion and harmony and peace in a country, not those people sounding the alarm against that person, or the people that says the organization saying that person must not be getting away with this type of rhetoric are not the problem. The person that is making those types of statements is the problem. That's like blaming the firefighters for the fire.
Okay, just the last thing on this. You know that we've had this national debate that's now just started, and I don't mean the National Pulse. I mean this conversation that should have started a few days ago, and there's been a big uproar about the pluses and the minuses around this. Around that, would that be something that you would pick up on there to say, come on, let's have a conversation about just understanding where we are as a people outside the party political space?
There absolutely needs to be a real national dialogue and a dialogue between groups and individuals. But the national dialogue TM trademark is not the place for that. That's a government captured or a party-led, a ANC-led more specifically endeavor. And I don't think that's going to be the right environment for this type of conversation. There needs to be a real dialogue that's not captured by any political party, whether that be the ANC, DA, whatever. Okay. There needs to be a dialogue that's citizen-led and organization-led, not with the fingerprints of
so if that is the case, and let's conclude with this, then what is stopping AfriForum from driving that real dialogue with different stakeholders of opposing views, as was done in the build-up to the 1994 first election?
Right. Well, I'll give you some insider information. We are currently gathering those types of voices that do not see the national dialogue in caps lock as the right venue, but who want to have a dialogue. We are making sure those people are finding each other, and we will be driving a dialogue of our own later this year, and it will not cost $7 million for the people of this country. You can rest assured about that.
Dialogue of our own, which is the own. Ernst van Zyl, appreciate your time here, spokesperson for AfriForum. This in relation to the call from AfriForum and the South African Agri Initiative, effectively to get Julius Malema sanctioned around the world, globally. I want to hear your thoughts. Let's do it next.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, of course, there's lots of comments. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. Yeah, Julius Malema is giving AfriForum a sleepless night, And it's for the first time I see a black person tormenting white people like this, But anyway, good luck to AfriForum.
Okay, good luck to AfriForum. Whatever good luck really means, I don't know. Here's one.
Ashraf, good day. This is Thabo from the Free State. Why aren't you asking the most important question? A black person was killed right here in Kronstadt, right here, by a white man. And you're not asking this person that you're interviewing from AfriForum. You're not asking him that question. Why are you not asking that question? And Ashraf, we need to know, what are these race-based laws that AfriForum is talking about? Thabo from the Free State in Welkom. Thank you.
Thanks, Thabo. I hear what you're saying. I mean, listen, I hear your point about somebody being killed. This is not about one specific person. This is about Julius Malema and the action they want to take against him in essence.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Emmanuel Mtola in Durban. I am a black gentleman, just ordinary man, in KZN. The song, Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer, indeed, is no longer relevant to the new democratic South Africa. You see, is no longer relevant, and Malema should stop singing that nonsense. We must sing a new song, kill the ANC, kill the corruption, which is destroying our country. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting take on that. And again, as you know, we often do get this diverse views on many issues. Just by the way, I mean, what difference does it make in terms of the pronouncement from the Human Rights Commission last week regarding Malema's pronouncements? Not about this, but other things around killing and talking about that as hate speech.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yes, I'm listening to the interview, but I know it might be late for this, but I would have thought, why don't you ask them about those Afrikaners who goes around still flashing the old apartheid flag, whereas the same constitutional court has ruled that it is unconstitutional. They shouldn't be been displaying that flag. Why aren't they taking those people to court so that we can see their unbiasedness? I feel AfriForum, it is biased organization, and they must just admit to that.
Well, I mean, okay, from my point, I mean, there's just only so many things we can focus on in a short conversation like this. But here's the point: if we believe that AfriForum are wrong in their actions about Julius Malema and what that means, then what's the counter to that? What's the national narrative that says, hold it, let's fight back against that, and doing so, by fighting back, we will do X, Y, Z. What is it? I'd like to know. 3:30. Here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the upgrading of the dome tent, the structure currently used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, will cost just over 31 million rand. The cost has been revised downward by 9 million rand. The eThekwini municipality says it is engaging members of the South African Taxi Council in efforts to halt the taxi strike in the Durban and surrounding areas. Thousands of commuters have been left stranded as the taxi shutdown escalates. And China's President Xi Jinping is meeting the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Beijing for the first formal talks in 6 years. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand queuing towards New Road, the M1 southbound slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and on the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving traffic on the link to the N12 east at Gillies Interchange. In KZN on the N3 eastbound, a stationary truck before Ashburton that's causing some serious delays. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Cromboom Road exit, the M3 northbound queuing at Rhodes Drive, and the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
I can tell you what, I'm looking at family groups to me, and guess what they're talking about? They're talking about the Springbok rugby team to play the All Blacks.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has named his side to face the All Blacks in a rugby championship test at Eden Park in Auckland on Saturday. Siya Kolisi returns from injury to play at number 8 with Peter Steph du Toit at blindside and Marco Verstaden at open side. At centre, it's Jesse Creel, and he will captain the side as he did in the Boks last test against Australia. Willie Leroux is also back in the team at full back, while Kanan Moody would play on the left wing. Andre Pollard and Grant Williams will be the halfback pairing. Also up front, Evan Etzebeth's lock partner will be Ruan Nortje, while Erasmus has opted for a traditional 5-3 split between forwards and backs on the bench. Young Ethan Hooker, with just one test cap to his name, is named among the replacements, and the game is going to be at 9 a.m. South African time on Saturday. Let's keep you up to date with what's happening in the world of cricket. South Africa versus England. It's the second ODI, and South Africa is currently sitting on 83 for 2 after 16 overs. Aiden Markram and Brieske at the crease, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with the score over there. Meanwhile, here's Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbi explaining what role he foresees for seam bowler team Dumis Kukune within the team, not only at the upcoming World Cup, but also going forward within their setup.
To me, gives us a different type of skill in terms of the makeup of our bowling attack. We've got bowlers that are bashers of the wicket. So they hit the wicket hard, they come at you. We've got bowlers that can nip it around. We've got bowlers that can swing it. Where Tumi comes in is the consistency of how she executes the skill.
In football, South Africa will seek to inch closer to FIFA World Cup qualification as Bafana face Lesotho at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. And coach Hugo Broos believes that securing maximum points against their neighbours will not only strengthen their grip at the top, but also increase the pressure on the Super Eagles.
I think Nigeria is only playing Saturday. So that means that if we win on Friday, that there will be a big pressure on their shoulders, because then they have to win against Rwanda, and again, Rwanda don't have to lose, who may not lose, to keep the second place. So it should be an ideal position for us. But first of all, we have to win, and even with everything what happens in the last week, I'm confident. I know the qualities of the players. We are still strong enough to beat Lesotho, but again, we have to focus and we have to be concentrated. We have to reach our best level and we have to fight. Good, playing a good game, a nice game of football, okay. When we can do it, why shouldn't we do it? But let's start from the first game, from the first minute, to fight for every second and for every square meter on the pitch and try to win that game. And again, it should be a very good situation for us if we could win the game on Friday.
Well, with just 4 matches remaining in the qualifiers, Bafana League Group C on 13 points from 6 games, 5 clear at the top. Lesotho sit in 5th place, 2 points above Zimbabwe at the bottom, while Nigeria are just 4th place, 1 point above Lesotho. Then moving on to tennis, Jannik Sinner continued his US Open title defense in dominant fashion as he swept past the Italian Lorenzo Musetti to reach the semifinals in New York. Labeled an artificial intelligence player by Alexandra Bublik in the last round. Sinner's scintillating form carried on as he won a 6-1, 6-4 and 6-2 win. Before I go, let me just keep you up to date with regards to the score between the Proteas and England, the second ODI between the two nations. South Africa currently sitting on 84 for 2 after 17 overs.
Before you go, often we say certain things that can be used as sound bites and voice clips to promote the show on other shows so people can listen to the show. So did you hear the cricket coach mention about the bowler just now? I think it was. Yeah,
Tumi Skukuneya.
Yeah, and I'm paraphrasing, when the way Tumi executes her skills, it's about consistency in the way she executes her skills. I would have thought that makes a very good promo for Catch Tumi on the National Pulse.
I mean, Ashraf, keep them
coming. There we are. You have to tell Busani, there it is, a ready-made quote.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, you certainly are. You're certainly commenting. Lots of people understandably responding to the AfriForum conversation we just had in their pull or their push, really, to get Julius Malema sanctioned globally, as they've in fact started already, and they certainly want to effectively escalate that. I wonder what you make of that, right? I can tell you as well, we should be speaking to the EFF. Not Malema, unfortunately, but we should be speaking to the EFF around 5 o'clock. So listen out for that and get their take on it. I would think in this case here it really would need 3 takes. The AfriForum position, the EFF position, and then very significantly someone who understands socio-political issues and the law and what that really means. But I mean, that leaves it open to you, isn't it? And your position on that issue too. Let me also tell you that later on we'll be chatting, being a Thursday, we'll be chatting about the build-up to G20. And in that build-up, as always, we have this connection that we have with regard to Channel Africa. And so listen out for that at about 4:15. Now, let's get to the Global Watch story. So here's an interesting thing. The leaders of China, Russia, and Korea actually coming together. And that has irked Donald Trump. Now, you may not be surprised by that because just about everything irks Donald Trump. And, of course, he says what he wants to say. So let's try and understand what exactly so irks him and what to do about it in terms of understanding geopolitics. With me is Dr. Gideon Chitanga, a researcher at the Maximilian University of Munich. Dr. Chitanga, thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So firstly, let's just go back a second in terms of the conversations that's been had at a very important Chinese military parade, right? So what was that about? And then who was there that so irked Donald Trump?
So China held commemorations for its role in the Second World War and its contribution towards the defeat of fascism, but at the same time also towards the realization of its independence and national sovereignty. Before the World War II, China was facing the invasion of parts of the country by the Japanese. Then before that, I think the British, the Dutch, the French had taken turns to occupy some territories of China. And China was divided between what we now talk about as the communists, who are the current, if you want, CCP, the current ruling party or government in China, and the nationalists who then retreated to Taiwan. So the end of the Second World War marked, I think, two significant things. First, that China played a very important role, significant role in the defeat of Japan and fascist Germany and fascist Italy, if we can call those countries of that time that. The second effect, which actually was downplayed, but mostly by Western historians after the Second World War. And the second thing is that eventually, after the Second World War, China realized its unification. And I think the military parades were commemorating those two significant feats in the history of China.
Okay, so I hear that. So Donald Trump then, well, I won't say he tweeted because he's got his own platform, the Truth platform. And I mean, this is what he said. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and King Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. And then it's signed off President Donald J. Trump. What do you make of? How do you understand what he just said?
Yeah, it's Donald Trump, right? And it sounds a bit like, I think, sour grapes, considering that this event in China attracted some of very powerful leaders, very powerful countries, Russia being one of them, India, and the Prime Minister of India, Modi, was there, Kim Jong-un, and other leaders. I think you referred to 16 or such a number. These are heads of states, and there were other government leaders. Political analysts or international relations experts are looking at the increasing influence of China and debating the suggestion that we are at a point where other powers are emerging to challenge the US or to at least lead the creation of what is called an alternative global order. What we know, of course, from these countries, or broadly countries from the global south, is the fact that they are very discontented with the post-Cold War dispensation as led by the US and other Western powers. They are calling for more say in international relations or international affairs. They are calling for more representation, more inclusion. They are calling for power to be more dispersed in the post-Cold War institutions to allow these countries to exercise their own rights to advance their interests. And I think that the tariffs which were imposed by the US after Trump came into power, they have become such a major issue that has gotten a lot of global leaders questioning the continuous role or leading role of the US. If you consider the impact of these tariffs to different economies, whether it's Russia, China, India, which actually faced a 50% tariff. African countries, South Africa like us, we are also facing this issue, but the US just woke up and legislated that it's going to impose tariffs on everybody, and without considering the rules of the World Trade Organization. So these issues are at the core of driving some rapprochement amongst the global south and other countries outside the Western Bloc.
But here's the point. I mean, in terms of, you use the word conspire against the United States, right? Mentioning effectively the leaders of three countries. How loaded is that word? I mean, he doesn't say things he doesn't mean, does he? You know, when he uses the word conspire against the USA, there has to be a bottom line to that.
Yes, so I do not understand how the president of the US here is bringing the whole idea of conspiracy. But we know that the campaigns for his party have much been based on all kinds of conspiracies. So I do not think that China, North Korea, and Russia were conspiring against the US. I think that surely they have probably held their own dialogues. Probably, given the role of the US in the world, the US might have been an issue. We know that before these events, President Trump held meetings with President Putin in Alaska, and they were discussing ending the conflict in Ukraine. But those discussions did not really result in much that is of substance. We know that Trump, in his first term, I think he met Kim Jong, and he has indicated that he would be interested in meeting him in his after his second term, but that has not happened. I think the key issue really is Trump looking at President Xi Jinping being able to invite these key leaders in Beijing and having meetings with them. And for him, as is probably the case with a lot of other observers, China is significantly demonstrating a serious global influence at the time when the power of the US is eroding.
So specifically with, I mean, he seems to have an ambiguous relationship with the Russians, and we don't quite understand. But certainly with Xi Jinping from the Chinese perspective, do you get a sense that, I go back to the historical Cold War, are we in a Cold War situation?
Yeah.
Here?
To the extent that we are seeing a lot of political, I would call them political interventions and responses and strategies that suggest that there's a big debate in the US about the increasing power China is showing, whether it's economic, and we saw the military signals and the posture in terms of reaching every corner of the world, and the responses of the US. Yes, we see an increasing suggestion that the US views China not just merely as a competitor, but I think to an extent you could see some signs of xenophobia and some suggestion that there's fear in much of the Western world that China is still an ideological enemy, as they would use it, an ideological enemy, a communist country that is a threat to the interests of the West.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Dr. Gideon Chitanga, appreciate your time. Lots to consider from that conversation. Researcher at the Maximilian University of Munich in Germany. This is the National Pulse. You may want to comment on that conversation about this sort of Cold War, but conspiracies certainly coming through from Donald Trump regarding China, South Korea and Russia, and what does all that mean? And the earlier conversation with AfriForum. And of course, we'll have a response from the EFF coming up after 5 o'clock. So do not miss that. Either way, I'll take your calls. I'll reflect on what you're saying. If you're sending us a WhatsApp, we'll certainly pick up on that too.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89, followed by your name to 41391. And stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Interesting. Early on, I had that conversation around the titles that you don't like to be called, and I think if somebody was called an influencer, I mean, how does that sit with you? Or even veteran, and I always found the veteran thing very, very offside, in my opinion. Here's some responses.
I don't know if this one can feature in this topic of titles that irritates. There's a title that irritates me. Please don't call me mama, especially at the workplace. I'm not your mother. Why do people insist on calling some of us mama? You know, I'm sure other people like this thing. I just don't. And people like to call me mama at work. I'm not your mother. Jeez, man. Thanks. It's Bongi here.
Says Bongi, you are clearly irritated, I can tell you. Okay, got that.
Good day, Ashraf. Johnny, if there's one word that really gets on my nerves and really boggles my mind that people can say it even, is comrades. I don't understand why people that was born after 94, even 2000, can shout, I'm a comrade, or encourage other comrade. There's one lady in particular that I like to watch her YouTube channel, Katlego Magi, from Citizens Concerned. My opinion, they must make that lady president. She really talks the truth. Doesn't matter what party, what color, what race, she talks the truth. And I think we all can learn from her. So my word of irritation is comrades. People that's very young, born after 94. Shouting the word comrades, and they think they're comrades. They don't know what the meaning of that is.
Okay, I was about to say thank you, comrade, but no, let me just keep my mouth shut. I mean, I get your point, right? Interesting point you bring up. I mean, does the word comrade have a sell-by date? When does it end? Kibiti in Germiston, what's your point?
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, go for it.
I'm all right. You know, I have a problem with you saying that many people, when you were talking about with that racist of AfriForum.
Yeah.
When you say many people will have a problem with the song with Julius Malema.
Yeah.
It's not many people. It's maybe you and other people. So not many people. I don't believe the black people of South Africa have a problem with the song being sung by Julius Malema, because that song is part of our history and heritage. And then on the other thing, AfriForum, when they are so egged by Julius Malema to an extent of taking him to the international countries, you know, it shows that they don't want to transform. AfriForum has never been a part of this pipeline that we were sold of the Rainbow Nation. Has never been, and they will never be.
Okay.
And the sooner they realize that South Africa does no longer belong to them, the better. Because what they are pushing now, they are pushing black people to do what they don't want to do.
All right, so Kibiti, let me jump in. I mean, on the first point, Kibiti, on the first point you said, where you said many, where I said many people. Yes, I did say, I didn't say all black people. I didn't even say the majority. I said many, and I'm saying it on the basis of people who call in on the show. And I can tell you now, not today, I'm judging it over like a 6-month period. Do you not hear them at all?
Ashraf, you know, when you talk to this racist, don't try to adjust yourself to their level. Be straight to the point. That is pure lies. That many people.
You think so?
I'm listening to your call, to your show. I'm a fanatic of SAFM.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
when you talk to these racists, you don't ask them relevant questions. These racists, they need to be told, and they need to know what is the stand of South Africans. You know, you sound to be wanting to be belong to these people. No,
Really? Okay.
Really, that's what.
Let's
that's how I
agree.
see.
Let's agree to differ. But fine, I hear
No,
what you're saying.
okay,
I'm glad
fine.
that you listen to the show regularly. Thank you for that. Right. In fact, I mean, listen. Here's a WhatsApp from Manda. I'm black, and I don't like that song. And that's not me saying it. That's Manda saying it. There's more, and I can tell you now, over a 6-month period, not one day, there's been many on this, which I'm not suggesting they're right or they're wrong. I'm just saying they have that position. They hold that view.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. For me, Ashraf is not a word, but it's a phrase. You know, this phrase used by the politician, our people. I really hate that phrase, Ashraf, because they don't care about us. They don't care about our situations. They just care about their families and their colleagues and their comrades. Yabo? So that phrase must be banned because they don't mean it when they call us our people.
Oh, I you know what? I hear what you're saying, and I'm reflecting on that. I first heard that our people, like in the late 80s and just early 90s, when the struggle was being escalated, and yes, we had these politicians talking about our people. Yeah.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Harry. Ashraf, you know, I just cannot understand what's the word, the bias that I get from SAFM. Now, this interview that you're having with the AfriForum guy,
yeah.
I mean, you are saying to him that the hatred speech of Malema killed the farmer, killed the Boer. You are saying to him that it apparently hasn't worked. In other words, it's been futile. There has been no direct attacks on farmers. But that isn't true. And that's not a case for excusing what the hate speech is saying. That's what I don't understand, the way that you're questioning him. It's as though you're saying to him, well, look, it hasn't worked, so why do we worry about it? I mean, that's the way I'm interpreting it. Apologies if that's not the way that you see it, but it sounds to me like that is the way that you're interviewing him. That's what it sounds like to me. It's Harry from Plettenberg Bay.
Okay, Harry. Listen, I mean, let's get this right, Harry. I think the point is that in terms of there's already been a ruling on that, and that ruling is not from me. That ruling is there, that in fact, within the context of South Africa's struggle, that song can be allowed. Now, that's the first point, right? The second point is that if the argument is that that song is a direct incitement to violence and to killing people, then the numbers don't match up, because for the amount of times it's been repeated, that's not been a case of people storming out of a rally and going to kill people. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean people are not dying. People are dying. In fact, white people are dying, black people are dying, many people. But how many are dying as a result of that? And the only reason I bring that up, because AfriForum, despite the ruling in South Africa on that issue that says it's allowed, whether you and I may or may not like it, are actually feeling now that they have to take it globally and actually get that person sanctioned because of that. So it is in that context to say, why do they feel there's a need to take it globally? Where about it does it? Why do they feel so strongly about it when South Africa constitutionally is ruled otherwise?
Ashraf and the SFM listener, you know, America and Israel are the Egyptian of by then, when Pharaoh he was terrorizing the Israelites. Now they terrorizing the world, those people. And I think it will be forever because everyone is just afraid of them.
Okay, I wonder why you think the world's afraid of them. By the way, I've just been called biased in favor of AfriForum, and I've also been called biased against AfriForum, all in one show. This is the National Pulse. Let's get the news at 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, upgrade to Parliament's dome to cost millions, and steel industry hit hard by Trump's tariffs. For SFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. The upgrading of the dome tent, the structure currently used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, will cost just over 31 million rand. The cost has been revised downward by 9 million rand. This came out during a meeting of the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management of Parliament. The upgrades include ablution facilities, electrical installations and general maintenance. The dome was used for the funeral of late President Nelson Mandela. Parliament started using it due to lack of space following the 2022 fire, but several challenges made it unsuitable for use. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says his department in Parliament will have to share the cost due to budgetary constraints.
We are able to, through painful reprioritization, I might add, because we have suffered enormous budget cuts, that we would propose contributing an amount of 15,883,000 rand, which we would deem to be a 50-50 cost-sharing model with Parliament and the department.
The Mangaung Metro Municipality Manager Silo More has refuted claims that the municipality is taking bribes from service providers in exchange of appointments. Reports have also emerged that some employees are being intimidated by those with political influence. The municipality held a media briefing to outline issues that have been on the headlines, such as service delivery and inflation of prices for successful bidders.
In the address, there is no 10%. There is, in fact, people should report if there is any criminality in terms of appointments. They should report to the city and they should report maybe to the police. We are not taking 10% of people. In fact, our supply chain is running faster now.
The Steel and Engineering Industries Federation of Southern Africa says the 30% U.S. tariffs on South African exports is putting further strain on the already struggling steel industry in the country. Industry leaders and workers have gathered at the Rand Mutual Assurances Prevention Conference in Durban to discuss ways to improve the employees' wellness and safety in the workplace. The insurance company's head of prevention, Dr. Jessica Hutchings, says the physical and mental well-being of workers is of utmost importance during the uncertainty brought by the U.S. tariff hikes. Over 150,000 jobs in the steel industry are at risk. The eThekwini municipality says it is engaging members of South African Taxi Council in efforts to halt the taxi strike in Durban and surrounding areas. Thousands of commuters have been left stranded as the taxi shutdown escalates. In Claremont and KwaDabeka in the west of the city, commuters have been forced to make other alternatives as operations were withdrawn since Tuesday. Other regions in the city joined the strike today. Taxi operators are demanding release of their vehicles and operating licenses. Municipal spokesperson Mluleki Mdungwa elaborates.
Engagements are ongoing between eThekwini municipality and the eThekwini Metro Taxi Council, and we are hopeful that together we will be able to find an amicable solution to this challenge. The mayor said that his doors remain open because we are all interested in seeing this matter resolved. I think one of the key issues that they raised yesterday is the issue of the delays in issuing operating licenses. Secondly, it was the issue of the impounding of vehicles. We emphasized that we are going to deal with that process within the ambit of the law.
China's President Xi Jinping is meeting the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Beijing for the first formal talks in 6 years. Yesterday, they stood side by side with Russia's Vladimir Putin at a huge military parade in the Chinese capital, prompting U.S. President Donald Trump to claim that the three were hatching a conspiracy. The BBC's Laura Picker has the details on the North Korean leader.
His economy depends on Beijing. 90% of North Korea's imports come from China. But in the last year, Pyongyang has grown closer to Moscow, helping to supply troops and munitions for Russia's war in Ukraine in return for billions of dollars worth of food and fuel, reducing the country's reliance on China. This partnership looks likely to continue, as Mr. Kim promised to do everything to assist Moscow when he met Mr. Putin in Beijing.
Recapping the top story, the upgrading of the dome tent, the structure currently used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, will cost over 31 million rand. The cost has been revised downward by 9 million rand. I'm on Delambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, South Africa 114 for 3 after 24 overs. SA Sports Ministry allocates 82 million rand to VAR, and French women's boxing team barred from world champs. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenvale, a crash before Modderfontein Road. The N1 northbound in Midrand, queuing towards Olifantsfontein Road, and the M1 southbound in Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is where a stationary truck is reported before Ashburton, and that's causing delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and Albert Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, we have this weekly crossing collaboration really between SAFM Radio, this show, The National Pulse, as well as Channel Africa. And today's one, linked to G20, really is meeting the expectations of the people. It is such an important issue, meeting the expectations with regard to G20. So that comes up at 4:15. Listen out for that. Of course, as always, we'll take your comments and your calls as and when we get the chance to get to them. But in fact, and that means now, in fact. So let's do that right away. You can call in live right now. You can WhatsApp, voice note, or text right away.
Hello, Ashraf, and all the comrades, Bongi Mamas out there. Heritage Day is around the corner. Let's celebrate our heritage. God bless Vince Cape Town. Comrades, Bongi Mamas. Yeah, boy.
Okay, making that point, never mind what others may say about the comrades and the mamas, and there's been further comments about that too. Right, we have now Churchill. I think it is Churchill. I can't quite read that. Churchill on the line. Hi. Churchill, hi.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yeah, you're live. Go for it. What's your point?
Okay, fine. Now, on this issue of kill the poor, kill the farmer, I personally have got a problem with it. Ashraf, there are parts of our history that are not doing us any good that we should just let go. I'm talking from the perspective of being a historian. Look, let me start by saying, for me, I think it's got a potential of fueling violence, no matter how little it may be. One death is one too many, regardless of the color of the skin. There could be, black people out there who have been hard done by a white farmer. When they listen to this chant and they sing it, it's got a potential of fueling violence. Once more, South Africa is part of the global community now. Other people don't understand the context of our history. Now, it becomes a mountain to climb for us to go out to other countries and explain ourselves. We're trying to attract investors to this country. Honestly speaking, that's my view.
Okay, so what do you feel? I mean, so one thing is having your view, right? What do you feel then about the stance taken by AfriForum? You see, you may have a personal view that to say it's outlived its purpose. That's your view, right? But what about AfriForum's view to take it a step further, to say, never mind what South Africa, in terms of South Africa's own checks and balance, in terms of us being a constitutional democracy, has said and done, we're going to take it a step further because we effectively want to nail this person. I mean, that's what they're saying.
Look, I'm not a friend of AfriForum, but I think we should work within the parameters of the law within this country and try to change the legislation, especially on this issue, because it's not doing us any good. You would see our delegation, they found it hard to explain before Donald Trump on this very issue, because other people don't understand exactly what we're meaning here when you're saying kill, because they actually interpret the literal interpretation of what it's saying. That's the biggest problem that we're facing.
Okay, got that. Thank you for that, Churchill, bringing up the point and maybe confirming what I've said earlier on, to say, I can tell you over a 6-month sample, not a 6-minute sample, there are many white people who don't like that phrase at all. There are certainly many black South Africans who may well have sung the song before who feel that it's outlived its purpose. Never mind what Malema or AfriForum has said. I'm talking about what they feel. That's you the public, okay? And some of the calls have just confirmed what I said earlier on, right or wrong.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Western Cape. Ashraf, where the people are standing outside naked. I think this naked guy who disarmed a policeman and even firing shots, I think he should change his insurance company. He literally takes this insurance ad up too seriously by being naked. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
I don't know where I missed this whole naked story. I did miss it, so you better tell us more about it. I don't know it, okay? I do know there's an insurance company called Naked, and maybe that's what you're referring to. Here's another.
My brother, I just heard what you said, what that lady said about you saying many people have a problem with kill the Boer, kill the farmer. So many people should have a problem. As you can hear, it's a hate and a racist song. You cannot agree with something like that. Although there's freedom of speech in South Africa, you cannot go with that. Come on. And black people should leave the thing that they always want to play the race card.
Okay, is that how you see it, playing the race card? And the other part is to say there was an important context for it before. It didn't even mean race, okay? Because think about it, kill the Boer, kill the farmer. There's no mention of color there, but it certainly mentions work position, right? And in terms of title. But has that changed? And many people believe so. In terms of the law, even now, it's still allowed, by the way.
Aye, but Ndate Ashraf, Umambongi, what is it? Because according to me, to say mama, kapa ndate, kapa yebo baba, it's just a form of respect. It's not as if I am implying that you are my mother or anything. It's a form of respect. Hi bo, Mambongi, siyahlonipha njalo. Or what must we say? Hello dog, kapa hello wena. Hi bo, Nhlanhla here from the Val.
But listen, she's talking about in the workplace, so you would know her. And she's like, just call her Bongi. Because have you asked her what she feels about it? Ultimately, it's her position. And many people don't want to be called something that suggests they're much older than they really are. And really, that's her business, don't you think, right? Here's another point. I hear your point about respect.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners of SFM. Ashraf, one thing that must be dealt with in South Africa before it divides the country, it's our noisy politicians from the EFF, our noisy politicians from the AfriForum. They must let bygones be bygones and understand and accept the past. We cannot change our history, but we can make it better. Brandma by Protection.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Do you think, is Brian right that in fact both the EFF and the AfriForum are actually too noisy? Just think about what he's saying. I'm not saying that. Just please, is Brian saying that they're too noisy, both of them, two extremes ideologically, but they're both pretty noisy as well. We're going to connect to Channel Africa as well just in a moment or so. Ashraf, good afternoon. About influencers being taxed. When will our government tax the foreigners with spaza shops and saloon or salons? I think they're now quiet, waiting for another child to die. I'm not too sure what you mean by that. I mean, really, there's like 3-4 different things you're saying in one go, and I'm just very, very confused. Sandile in Klerksdorp saying, I don't like the song anymore. Black people are not against farmers. My point, right? And that's one. I'm black. I also don't like that song. That comes from Lynn. And let me just pick out another. There's a couple of more that I want to pick up on this one here. There's another. I'm black. I don't like that song. I'm not suggesting that everybody is black here. I mean, that's what people claim they are. I'm just saying that so you know that. Right. Let's see. By the way, so we've invited EFF. They haven't yet quite confirmed they're going to talk. I just want to make sure about that. We've invited them to speak to us at 5:10 regarding their position, regarding AfriForum's position, regarding Julius Malema. But either way, if not them, we will get someone certainly who understands the politics of South Africa to comment about that. What we'll do next is we'll connect to G20. The countdown continues.
This week on FC Meets, Busin Tisa of M Sports Marketing takes us on a journey of brand to fan synergy and sports marketing innovations. Find out how she navigates campaigns and activations that set the bar for fan experience. Tune into SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus this Saturday, 6 September at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Rechange our game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, and of course now we're going to connect to Tommy Ngobeni as we do every Thursday around this time as part of the countdown to G20. Tommy, you there, right?
All of this will be focused on this afternoon as we host our weekly G20 feature with myself, Tammy Ngubeni, here on Africa in Business and the National Pulse on SAFM with Ashraf Garda. So that's our focus for today. What are the people on the ground saying? What are their expectations? Are they even aware of the G20 presidency and the key issues that are being discussed? We'll be looking at this afternoon. It's titled A Conversation with Non-State Actors, and through this colloquium, the committee, as well as SALO, seek to establish stakeholder expectations regarding South Africa's G20 presidency with various engagement groups. Let me repeat those once again for your benefit if you've just joined us. It's the Y20, the C20, the W20, the T20, as well as the B20, amongst others.
In fact, there was a M20 yesterday or 2 days ago that we attended because we broadcasted from there. I'm not sure how many 20s there are into the all-important G20, right? But I mean, the point is well taken. So building on that discussion of the various G20 engagement groups that has been highlighted, right? One of the key issues has been the issues of implementation that goes beyond the G20 meetings in November. I think it's a big issue. So what happens after that? And there are many people who are particularly concerned about the overall relevance to the people in the street. That means, how does it impact all of them? So to discuss it even further, we're now joined on the line by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Cooperation. That's Supra Mahuma Pella. With me, Tommy, you can take over.
Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Mamopela. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business as well as SAFM as we continue focusing on the G20. But this is a very important aspect, finding out what the non-state stakeholders are expecting from the upcoming G20. But in what ways is your committee actively working to champion the voices of all the stakeholders that you've engaged? And also, while you're doing that, making sure that their perspectives and their voices are also heard and that they do actually shape the G20 deliberations. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tammy, and good afternoon to you also, Ashraf, and those who are listening and watching. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
So let's find out, Mr. Mampilo.
In fact, I can jump in now, Tommy. Certainly, we can do that. So let's get to this issue. In terms of, so we know there's been an issue from the outside of people not too sure exactly where it goes, right? But perhaps you may want to pick up, Tommy, on that issue of just the stakeholder engagements and what happens. So I'll leave it to you, in fact, do that.
No, certainly. I mean, it's such a key thing, ensuring that all the voices are represented. And Mr. Mampilo, I'm wondering how you, as the committee, are going to ensure that you are actively championing the voices of all the stakeholders involved, that from the highest office to the officeless, those voices are heard, and that their perspective also shape the deliberations surrounding the G20. What is it that your committee is doing in that regard?
Once more, thank you very much, Sis Tammy. Firstly, the Portfolio Committee is not a non-state actor. We are a creature established in terms of the Constitution of the Republic, and we exist basically in the context of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa to do three things. One, to do oversight on the executive. Two, to make laws. And three, to make sure that we represent the people. So that's the framework within which all committees of Parliament operate. So we came together as the Portfolio Committee, and we deemed it necessary because we do oversight on the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to bring them together. But in this case, we brought in a non-state actor who was working with us, SALU, to make sure that we look at other non-state actors, the extent to which they are playing a role in this matter of the G20, which is going to happen here in South Africa in November. So we met with the T20, which is the think tanks, the C20, the B20, the L20, W20 for women, and the Y20. In summary, our observation is that the Republic of South Africa, under the presidency of Ntate Ramaphosa, but also representing the African continent, because the African Union is working together with South Africa to make sure that South Africa is just a venue which is hosting the G20. It becomes successful. So we are happy, one, that logistically, content-wise, research, everything else so far is going well. Secondly, we are happy that from the side of Parliament, led by the Speaker, Thoko Didiza, at the end of this month, they are going to be having their own P20, which is parliamentarians coming together to then look at, from an oversight perspective, what is it that parliaments are expecting because they represent the people. Critically, what was emphasized yesterday is the fact that other G20s have been sitting, but there hasn't been institutionalized, systematic, sustainable mechanisms put in place to make sure that decisions that are made at these G20 summits are indeed followed on after the G20 summit. In this regard, we've agreed with the non-state actors yesterday that using avenues like our parliament, we will make sure that every 6 months after the G20, we will demand that government table a report in parliament, and the report must also be given to the people of South Africa so that they can express their own views. Secondly, those 6 months report must be tabled with the African Union so that the African Union can make sure that member states within the African continent do attend to the agreements that are emerging from the G20. Thirdly, Pan-Africanist Parliament, we've agreed that in their sittings, no sitting must sit without looking at the way forward in as far as progress coming out of the G20 is concerned. But we also agreed with the proposal made by the Y20 young people that these structures, some of them are going to cease to exist after November, the young people are suggesting that no, these structures must not cease to exist like the Y20. There must be a G20 Youth Council, which will exist globally to look at matters that are affecting young people in South Africa, in Africa, and all over the world. So we hope that those structures can live beyond the G20 as a new phenomenon and a new approach going forward.
Okay. Now, one of the things, Super, and I want to pick your brain on this one, is you judge the conversations that take place in WhatsApp groups. What are the biggest issues that they're concerned about every single day? I mean, the issues of crime, as we know, is one, and no jobs. I'll tell you what, nobody in 3 family groups that I'm involved in have even mentioned the G20 once in the last 5 months. Now, if we then extend that to other conversations from other families, it does suggest a very, very urgent need to bring in civil society into the conversation so that they fully understand the impact of G20 and how it will help them, and therefore they will embrace it fuller. What's your plan to do just that?
Remember, we don't implement the G20. We do oversight on the executive that is responsible for the G20. You are right. And the people who are talking on the social media are right. That is not everybody. The majority of the people don't know and don't have an association with the proceedings, the contents, and expected outcome of the G20. So yesterday, one of the emphasis that was made was that these structures, which are said to be representing the people like the C20, the B20, and so on, must make sure that from next week, they intensify more than ever before communication with the people on the ground across the African continent. But we also hope that member states of the African Union, parliamentarians who are part of the Pan-African Parliament, and all the NGOs and community-based organizations can make sure that they raise awareness and sensitize our people about this important platform, but also to educate them that G20 is a product of a crisis financially which was facing the world in 1997, 1998, and the ministers of finance came together to come up with a solution. And in the course of that, that's how then this creature called the G20 came into existence. And 10 years later, the same crisis arose. And that's why then the heads of states came into the picture. And that's where we find ourselves now. If we don't educate our people about its history, its content, its purpose, and how people must actually direct the agenda of the G20, and how G20 must arrive at decisions which are sensitive to the views of the people on the ground, it will become irrelevant. And that point was acknowledged yesterday that there will never be enough communication. It has to be intensified.
You spoke earlier on about the proposals that are coming out, specifically from the youth, to ensure that this is not just something that happens when the G20 takes place, but it actually continues on a global scale throughout the course of the year. And that really speaks to issues of sustainability. And what are the mechanisms that are in place to ensure that whatever outcomes come out of this G20 summit, that they don't just remain rhetoric, that it's not just another talk shop, but that these outcomes translate into tangible benefits for ordinary South Africans, developments that they can see, feel, and experience in their day-to-day lives, specifically around economic empowerment and sustainable development as well.
On our part, as the Portfolio Committee, on Wednesday next week from 9 o'clock, until late in the afternoon, we are sitting with Minister Lamola, who is the Minister of DERCO. And one of the things we are going to emphasize, one is that there has to be everyday communication across the board. What it means is that on a daily basis, some message must go out, not only to tell people about the papers that have been developed, so that the people can also feedback on what are their expectations. That's the first thing. The second thing that we are going to be communicating to the minister is a decision that has been taken yesterday that post the G20, we would want them to report on a 6-monthly basis through Parliament to the people on how they are implementing the outcomes of the G20. Remember, the outcomes of the G20 are not detached from other outcomes that like the Millennium Development Goals, like Agenda 2063 in the African continent, like the tools on how we implement. For instance, yesterday we said G20 must say how they are going to help Africa to implement the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement so that they can bring the resources, they can bring the knowledge, they can bring the capacity to work together with this developing economy in the African continent to implement our own perspective enshrined in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We are also saying issues of the environment has to be at the center of this industrialization through the agenda of the G20, because if you don't preserve the environment, there's going to be degradation, like all these calamities that are going all over the world. And what we are trying to develop through industrialization will then be destroyed because you did not preserve the environment.
Okay. Just the last question, just before we conclude then, right? So, and in many ways we've touched on it to a degree, but what mechanisms would you use or are in place, right, to ensure that post the G20 summit, the outcomes translate into something very tangible, very practical that we can feel?
The African Union has to make sure that every member state reports on a regular basis to the African Union on the extent to which they are implementing the outcome. Secondly, every parliament throughout the African continent, through the Pan-African Parliament, has to make sure that they report on a regular basis, quarterly, on the implementation and as far as oversight is concerned. Thirdly, business throughout the African continent, business doing trade all over the world, has to on a regular basis report to the substructures of the G20 through member states to say what progress are they making. Young people, like I said, are right. Some of the structures has to exist beyond G20. Those structures must sit down on a regular basis to discuss what progress we are making and use television, social media, newspapers, radio, interaction practical with people to make sure that we report on progress that we are making. But most importantly, it's important for G20 member states to say, we need to provide a platform for people to hold the state presidents who head the G20 states is concerned. And we hope that the Pan-African Parliament, working with the rest of the world, parliaments can work together and say, because we have got an instrument legally to hold executives accountable, how do we make sure that we become the voice of people through our parliaments, through committees, through members of parliament, so that the people can on an ongoing basis indeed hold the executive accountable by using their own parliament.
And we're going to have to leave it at that for this afternoon, but thank you very much for that update on the conversations that have been ongoing, making sure that everybody's voice is represented. That was the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee for International Relations and Corporations, Supra Mahumapelo. We thank you very much. It's exactly 4:34 Central African Time. Thank you to the chair of the Portfolio Committee and to Ashraf Garda on SAFM. It's gone.
Okay. And that's where we jump in. Of course, just slightly delayed news headlines, but here it is.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Dome tent, the structure currently used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, could be functional and ready for use by January next year. The Competition Commission's cost of living report has highlighted that the rising economic strain on households is deepening And prosecutors in Lisbon have opened an investigation as Portugal observes a day of national mourning for the 17 people killed when a funicular train derailed in the capital yesterday. A full update for us at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound and Alexandra slow moving towards London Road. The N1 southbound and four ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive and Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has delays towards the M1 highway. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound, a crash before Racecourse Road, Voortrekker Road eastbound and Maitland slow moving through the area, and Lisbeek Parkway southbound and Observatory slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
All right, Tumi, you got your eye on the South African cricket team, right?
I do. South Africa currently sitting on 160 for 3 after 31 overs. Tristan Stubbs and Matthew Brieska at the crease. Stubbs on 20 and Brieska on 46. We'll continue to keep a close eye on that second ODI between the two nations. Meanwhile, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture has announced that the ministry has allocated 82 million rand to the implementation of video assistant referee in the country. In a statement, it confirms, or the department confirms, that funds will go to a comprehensive project plan towards training programs for referees and officials, technology selection, stadium assessments, and establishment of a VAR training center. Furthermore, a portion of the budget will go towards providing reliable connectivity at relevant stadiums to ensure seamless integration of the VAR system and also overall stadium safety. Elsewhere, newly signed Kaizer Chiefs midfielder Lebogang Maboya says that coming full circle at Chiefs is a very special moment for him after having been at Mbombela United, Maritzburg United, and also Mamelodi Sundowns.
This is a club where I grew up in, and it's such an honor and a privilege for me to be back home and, representing the team as well. I mean, it's Kaizer Chiefs is a very big brand, firstly, and playing for a big team, there are always going to be very high expectations, not just from a player's point of view, but from the supporters as well, And I think also for us as players, I mean, we also want to bring, silver away. We also want to leave the jersey in a better place than the state that we found it in. And I'd say the mood in the team is very positive. Everyone is very positive and, really, really looking forward to the season.
In rugby, Springbok women coach Lorian Johannes Haupt says that the team is not looking at permutation in this weekend's Women's Rugby World Cup quarterfinals because they came to England to compete and play against the best. South Africa faces France in Northampton on Sunday in the Pool D decider. The winner of the Franklin's Gardens clash will play the team finishing second in Pool C, and whether it will be defending champions New Zealand or Ireland, it's all the same, according to the coach. The Black Ferns take on Ireland in Brighton and Hove on Sunday, and both sides have taken a maximum of 10 points from their first two games, but New Zealand have the edge over Ireland, sitting on 89 and Ireland on 44 in terms of point difference. So they look likely to top the pool in the event of a draw. Still staying with rugby, Springbok star Cheslin Colby says that the historic rivalry with New Zealand makes Saturday's Rugby Championship clash one of the biggest fixtures on the calendar. The Bokweng has been named in coach Rassie Erasmus starting 15, and he says that running out in green and gold at the Eden Park is a privilege he doesn't take lightly.
Out of my experience, every opportunity you get to play against New Zealand, and as you mentioned, the history behind it, it's massive, and I can probably reflect on each and every other player. It's the same. You're playing against the number one team currently at the moment, and that's what you wanna come up against and measure yourself as an individual and as a team, where you're at, and if you're still on par.
In boxing, the French women's team have been barred from the Boxing World Championships because the results of their gender tests were not delivered on time. World Boxing said last month that women wanting to compete in the event in Liverpool that starts today would have to undergo mandatory genetic sex testing under its new policy. Such tests have been banned in France since a law was passed in 1994, except under strict conditions. So the French Federation had to wait till they reached England in order to proceed with them. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Wayne, for you, what is the real deal?
For me, it's really customer service. It's getting my money's worth. So if I phone Outsurance and I've got a problem, they're always there.
So it's not just we've got your money, now off you go.
No, money is not the biggest deal for me. It's service. Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
What does you always get something out mean to you, Lorette?
Outsurance made it possible for us to live our dream to travel more with the money in our pocket that we save.
Let me know, what is it?
725. It was unbelievable. My husband, he sits there on the chair and he's just nodding his head and say, yes, yes, yes. This is really not just an advertisement. This is really real.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
When Avukile was diagnosed with blood cancer, his only hope was a stem cell transplant from a matching donor. Thankfully, a perfect match was found, and Avukile received the transplant that saved his life. But thousands of patients in South Africa are still waiting to find their match. Together, we can give more patients like Avukile a second chance at life. Visit dkmsafrica.org.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, and Makwe Masilela has got all those numbers. Makwe, let's start with Sanlam's interim results.
Yes, Ashraf, the group new business volumes up 7%, benefiting from increased investment management and general insurance inflows in South Africa. Life insurance volume growth was muted, but was sustained at relatively high levels. Life insurance net value of new business was down 18%, following corporate activity involving the cessation of the Capital Corporation Agreement and the reduction of Sanlam's holding in Sanlam Alliance, and profit and earnings per share is down 2%. And Ashraf, concerns about fiscal health of major economies from the likes of Japan to Britain and the US kept long-dated borrowing cost pinned near multi-year highs, and market sentiment getting a lift from expected US rate cuts to offset the weaknesses that we see in the labor market. Hence, tomorrow's job numbers are weighted with keen interest, and weak job markets will reinforce bets of a rate cut later this month. And so far, data released today doesn't print a pretty picture, and locally our Q3 business confidence dipped once more because of mounting pressures on exporters and low investor appetite, raising concerns over job creation and growth. And after falling over 2% yesterday, oil prices are still under pressure as traders awaited OPEC Plus Sunday meeting, where producers are expected to consider another increase when it comes to output targets. Brent crude is down 1.2% at $66 a barrel, and after a series of record highs this week, amid growing conviction that US rates will be cut. Today, it is facing profit taking, with traders waiting for more clues when it comes to interest rate cuts. We see gold is down 0.5% at 3,541, but platinum down a whooping 4.6% at 1,369. Stocks, and we are talking global stocks, are cautiously up, but the JSE is down 0.6%, dragged down mainly by our resources, which are down 3%. The rand weakened almost not 7% against the US dollar. It's now 17.80, 23.90 to the pound, and 20.72 to the euro.
Okay, we got that. Thanks for that, Mark. We, of course, we'll have another update, in fact, a full 1 hour with Jimmy Moyaha from 6 to 7 this evening, as we do every evening. So do listen out for that. We'll hopefully get to some of your calls as well, because we need to pick up some of your thoughts just now. But what about education, and what about entrepreneurship, and how do we develop and link those two? It's such an important issue. We'll talk about that next.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I had a chat, incidentally, with Dr. Stephen Zwane, and you may be familiar with him, right? And
Yes.
interestingly, we spoke about just that, the importance of, entrepreneurship, but education in entrepreneurship. So I find with great interest, we're talking about just that today, entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship development in higher education. And my guest is Dr. Adwil Gumbo, who's the Director for Entrepreneurship at Universities South Africa. So, Dr. Gumbo, good of you to come in, and thanks for connecting with us here live on the National Pulse.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners as well.
Thank you. I mean, it's interesting, this show is called the National Pulse, but we also accept that the nation's pulse must be driven by the most energized people. And unfortunately, the most energized young people are largely out of jobs, right? That presents its own challenges. So where does entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education then come in to meet that challenge?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think what we have here is, at the heart of it, is young people that we have that have lots of energy. And in the sector that I represent, these are young people that are located within our 26 universities, public universities, between 1.1 to 1.2 million students at our 26 public institutions. And what we have is we have them going through our education system, and when they exit, we've been seeing an increase in their unemployability, where they struggle to get jobs.
And these are graduates, as opposed to those who are not graduates.
These are graduates. And then this conversation then comes in to say, we need to look at another gateway or avenue of economic participation of our graduates, and that vehicle being entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Not as an afterthought to say you think about entrepreneurship when you're sitting at home, you have no job. So we're saying let's introduce the entrepreneurial attributes and competencies to you as a university student. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to study entrepreneurship, but we're saying the attributes and the competencies that make one to think entrepreneurially. And it goes a long way to even looking at the institution itself. Our universities, do they have a culture that support and promote entrepreneurship?
And maybe, can you answer that? Your own question?
The vehicle that I represent, which is the Entrepreneurship Development in Higher Education, which is a program located within the Universities South Africa, which is a representative organization of all the 26 public universities, funded mainly by the Department of Higher Education and Training, was then created as a vehicle to institutionalize entrepreneurship in our public institutions. To say universities now, besides producing the graduates in the different fields, they need to consider and embed entrepreneurship in what they are teaching. And it's not only limited to those who start in commerce. We're studying humanities, health sciences, engineering, science. We say entrepreneurship should be embedded. It's a life skill. It's a skill that you need to start your own business. And we're not saying start your own business when you have exited the university. You can start your own business while you're still.
Okay, which is very different to you're telling a person who's out of a job and out of a job for a while to say, listen, just go and hustle and buy one apple for R1, sell it for R2 or R1.50, and you're an entrepreneur. That is entrepreneurial, but that is incidental because of the problems that a person is facing, right? You're saying being very intentional about being entrepreneurial.
Exactly. Because one thing that universities do is to produce knowledge. They generate knowledge. University students have access to that knowledge. They go to a university to learn. So universities are institutions of teaching, learning, and research. And we're saying in that process, consider the skills that you've learned at university, to package them together, come up with innovative ideas that are solving the challenges that are facing our communities and society today. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying university students are better placed to come up with those solutions. Because they come from those communities, they are at our universities, they have access to skills, research, they have access to even research. That some of it, PhD students, master students, even honor students, and even undergrad, they have access to this research, this knowledge that is being generated. So the question is, what are we doing to that knowledge? Yes, there is knowledge that cannot be commercializable, but some of that knowledge, the innovation, can be commercialized. And we see the birth of the 21st century industries, as we have seen in the global north, that some of the fastest growing startups were actually founded at universities by university students in university dormitories.
I mean, need I say Facebook is one of them, by the way, as a good example, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What about, in fact, what I want to pick up on, I mean, part of that is you've got some very specific plans around Entrepreneurial Week, and I'm very keen to touch on that, which I'll do right after this.
So Taryn, you've just graduated cum laude, but nothing says you're a genius quite like selling your car to WeBuyCars.
Absolutely. My car was an 18th birthday present, and it's time to move on to something a bit more mature.
So where did you hear about WeBuyCars?
All of my friends are using WeBuyCars. I would have had legit FOMO if I hadn't used them. And it was so quick. I did it on my laptop while sending around my CV.
Smart move, Taryn. Graduated and upgraded. WeBuyCars. Geared for success. Geared for you.
We all know a Mesara, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mjanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spends at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
We are concluding our chat with Dr. Adewale Gumbo, who's the Director for Entrepreneurship at Universities South Africa. So as I speak to you and challenges around, entrepreneurship and youth, we talk to you in the context of what, Global Entrepreneurship Week? Tell me about that.
Yes. Maybe allow me to go back just to give
go ahead.
a background, to explain the focus areas of the entrepreneurship development and higher education at our universities. It has 3 focus areas. So the first focus area is to look at student entrepreneurship. How do we enable, how do we stimulate, how do we support, how do we enhance that? And then the second focus area then will be the staff capacity development. Staff have a lot of interface with the students. I'm talking about academics here and the support professionals that are within our universities. So as a focus area, we say, how do we support them? How do we enable entrepreneurship through the teaching, learning, and research? And then the third focus area, then we're looking at the institution itself, the university, to say, how does it become entrepreneurial? Okay. How do our public universities become entrepreneurial universities where they are now becoming entrepreneurial ecosystems that will see the production of entrepreneurs? While students are still starting there, they can start their own businesses. Sometimes, it starts as a side hustle. Some of the students are actually supporting.
Need I say, in the same way, one thinks about Silicon Valley as a hub in terms of, tech and innovation advancement. You're saying even within the university space, it has to be seen as that, as opposed to very academic, yeah?
Exactly. I think that's the 21st century university, where is innovation focused and even solving challenges that are there in society. So you package that, as I said, using the resources that the university has, the knowledge that is generating, the innovation that is coming out of there, and the research. So, and then looking into that in your context, to say, in the Global Entrepreneurship Week, actually in South Africa, we are having what we call the Studentpreneurs Indaba that we're having in October. So during that program, we bring together students to learn from each other, to share from each other, and we're going to have like tracks where, like funding tracks, they're going to get an inspirational talk. But over and beyond the students receiving this information, there is going to be a lot of sharing where students are going to participate in the creation of what we call an entrepreneurial university. How does an entrepreneurial university look like from a student side, a university student? So you want them to co-create that. And following that, then we have the Edilihotla, which is, and we've partnered with actually a United Nations Economic Commission for Africa under the Alliance for Entrepreneurial Universities in Africa that are coming together. So now we're having even a Pan-African footprint to say, as a continent, let's use our universities as entrepreneurial ecosystems to come up with innovations customized, contextualized to the challenges that we are facing. And that then we see this common thread. Students having this conversation, aligned with the first focus area that I mentioned, student entrepreneurship. And then the second one, which is the staff capacity development, bringing together the university staff, academic support professionals, and even university leaders to say, what does an entrepreneurial university look like? What must it do? What policies are there? What culture is there?
So what is the state then? I mean, can you identify right now in South Africa an entrepreneurial university right now, and what does it look like versus an entrepreneurial university elsewhere?
Yes, I don't want to mention any names. I'm responsible for all 26. So it's the program started in 2018. We have seen great strides changing, where even universities are now considering, they have changed their policies, even appointing some of the deputy vice chancellor for research and innovation and giving that senior leader responsibility for entrepreneurship development. Some universities in South Africa have actually added entrepreneurship as a key focus area in their strategic goals. So it shows that the university leadership is aware of the challenge of graduate unemployment and entrepreneurship as a vehicle in which graduates can actually participate in the economy.
What's the difference then between an entrepreneurial university that encourages entrepreneurship and has that insight versus, say, business schools?
It's the business schools are a part of the university, but the difference between a business school and maybe, let's say, your university, you'll find that business schools are dealing with postgrad students. Most of them are actually people coming from corporate. They're already working, as compared to a university dealing with a first-year student, second-year student, straight from school, from basic education, getting their first qualification. So our program covers both business school or your first year. And it's also important that when you put this together, you have a second-year student having access to a master's student. You know, the conversation becomes enriched. There's a lot of peer-to-peer learning among the students. And the program is coordinated centrally. So in addition to having access to your own university entrepreneurial ecosystem at one university, you have access to the other universities. You have access to the other entrepreneurs. We have what we call a community of practice. We have a studentpreneurs community of practice that is student-led. To be a member of that community of practice, you need to be a registered student at any of the 26 universities, and you need to be have a running business.
So, as you said, without mentioning names, I mean, you started this in 2018. Are you seeing, two things? Are you seeing the difference in that being playing out? That means, are we actually producing more entrepreneurs? Because if we're not, then it goes back to the same issue. There's another academic learning of people who are unemployed. And number two, around that one, just to be clear, what you said is, when they're studying around entrepreneurship, is that studied as a separate course, as a degree course, or in fact it's something else, as you've mentioned, and somehow these tools get integrated into that particular study?
Yes. Your first question in terms of are we seeing more entrepreneurs, I want to use the term more, but are we seeing entrepreneurs that are creating impact? It's a definite yes. There are entrepreneurs that have come through the program, come out of our universities that are actually already employing people. Some of them actually have not graduated. They are still students running businesses and employing people. If you look at in 2023, one of the winner of, we have this award called the InterVarsity, where we recognize a student as the Student Entrepreneur of the Year. Like Ncedo Nzabo from Walter Sisulu University, running a business called Kombe Maize. If you look at the number of employment that is created in his community, he's a third-year education student. So, to your other question, to say, do you need to study entrepreneurship? Yes, you can study entrepreneurship, but the program seeks to embed entrepreneurship across faculties. So whether you're studying health sciences, you're studying engineering, natural sciences, humanities, we are saying the universities need to integrate, embed entrepreneurial competencies and attributes as part of the graduate.
But it's interesting you say so. I mean, just the other day, I actually met a medical doctor who had to then close down his practice and is now working for somebody else. And one of the things he told me, he says, you know what? I'm a good doctor. I'm just a very poor marketer, and I don't connect, I don't network well with people. And that's actually cost him business. I mean, that's exactly the point, that even doctors or lawyers, they must still be marketers, which is where the entrepreneurial angle comes in, right?
Exactly. And those are the entrepreneurial competencies and attributes that we are saying all our graduates need to have. And some of the graduates, Ashraf, I have to be clear, they're not going to start businesses when they graduate. They're going to get employment. But the research has shown that a graduate who thinks entrepreneurial, because what are some of the entrepreneurial attributes and competencies? Problem solving, innovation, and these are skills that are actually valued by even employers. So the entrepreneurial competencies and skills are actually needed. You have got some, you mentioned people who are in the medical field, even some who go on to open their own practices as attorneys, for example. You want to run it as a business. And now you can have the technical skills of what you are focusing on, but to run a business, you need its own skill set.
Right,
and we are saying our universities then are now, ecosystems that introduce you to be part of that. And you also have the advantage of having connections within the ecosystem to other like-minded university students
because you would do that. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right, we're on to news time. Is there any final point you wish to make very quickly?
My final time is that I want to acknowledge some of the sponsors that have come on board. I mentioned that the program is sponsored, funded by the Department of Higher Education and Training. We've got quite a number of funders that have come. We had Dr. Stephen Zwane from APSA. They are actually a funder of even the studentpreneurs in Daba. We've got the SAB Foundation. We've got the British Council. We've got others that we're having conversation with, Mr. Price Foundation, Momentum Foundation. Quite a number that are actually lifting their hand to say, we see what you're doing, and we want to be part of the solution where we contribute towards the job creators.
And that's a big thumbs up to all of them. But thumbs up to you certainly as well, Dr. Edwill Gumbo, the Director of Entrepreneurship at Universities South Africa. Now, really, if that doesn't move your pulse, then I don't really know. So much appreciate your time. Let's get the
thank
news.
you so much for
It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Upgrade of parliamentary dome and probe into Portugal train crash. Good day to you. The dome tent, the structure used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, could be functional and ready for use by January next year. The Director of the Public Works and Infrastructure Department, Tembeka Kolele, was addressing the Joint Standing Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament. The department says the estimated cost of the upgrade and continued maintenance of the tent, which must be shared by Parliament, is more than 31 million rand. Kolele says if this is accepted by Parliament, the dome could be ready by early next year.
The dome will be functional by January 2026. We are anticipating, because the reconstruction project is planned for completion in November 2026, but we have made provision in our plan for the dome that the dome can be there for 12 months, even up to 18 months, even beyond, should the project be delayed. But the dome will be functional, and we as a department will be taking full responsibility for the functionality of the dome.
The Competition Commission's cost of living report has highlighted the rising economic strain on households. The report, covering the period between March 2020 and March 2025, found that low-income households carry the heaviest burden. It has also revealed that the price of non-food items like water and electricity have risen above inflation. Economist at the Commission, Andiso Sipukwana.
There has been inflation in essential goods, which is outpacing wage growth, therefore reducing purchasing power of consumers. And then the food and alcoholic beverages making over 40% of spending for poorest households, making future inflation particularly harmful.
2 Johannesburg Metro Police candidates have died during training exercises in the selection program in separate cases. Metro Police spokesperson Gulani Fichler has the details.
Marvelous Michael Nyambi, 24 years of age, from Ruby Ridge, was participating in the selection program on Thursday, August 28, 2025 at the Reimsig Stadium when he became ill from heat exhaustion. He was immediately attended to by Emergency Management Services personnel and was later transported to Yusuf Dadoo Hospital for further treatment. Sadly, Mr. Nyambi passed away on Friday, August 29, 2025. And secondly, Zweletu Dekede, 26 years of age, from Bramfisherville Phase 1, was also a candidate in the same program. On Monday, September 1st, 2025, during the recruitment process at the stadium, he was brought into the stadium unresponsive. Emergency Management Services officers on site immediately initiated CPR, but unfortunately the attempts to revive him were unsuccessful. Mr. Dekede was declared deceased at the scene.
The Mbangeni Regional Court in KwaZulu-Natal has sentenced a 24-year-old man to life in prison and an additional 75 years for the rape of his 2 cousins. The victims, who are sisters, were 16 and 19 years old at the time. The NPA's Natasha Ramkasinkara.
The accused was also declared unfit to possess a firearm, and the court ordered that his name is entered into the National Register for Sex Offenders. Curbing the scourge of gender-based violence and sexual offences is an organizational priority for the NPA. Together with our partners in the Justice Cluster, we are mandated to fight for justice on behalf of the victims of crime.
Prosecutors in Lisbon have opened an investigation as Portugal observes a day of national mourning for 17 people killed when a train derailed in the capital yesterday. The BBC's Alison Roberts has more.
We don't know the identity of the victims, but there have been reports that as many as 10 nationalities may have been involved, and still more people still in hospital, several people with serious or critical injuries, so the focus is still on their survival, but also to an extent the focus is shifting to the investigation into what might be the causes of this accident. There are several investigations ongoing by the criminal police, by the company itself, and also by the National Transport Safety Authority, which began its work today.
The top story, the dome tent, the structure used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, could be functional and ready for use by January next year. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Coos.
In sports, the Proteas are 218 for 3 after 38 overs, while the SA Sports Ministry allocates 82 million rand to VAR, and Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has avoided any major surprises in his Springbok team to face the All Blacks on Saturday. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N4 westbound in Pretoria has delays towards the N1 highway, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, and the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, a stationary vehicle reported before Giluli's interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. In KZN, on the N3 northbound, a crash reported. The right lane and right shoulder are both blocked after the ramp to Cliffdale interchange. And on the N2 southbound, a stationary vehicle with the left lane blocked after the N2 ramp from the M4. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a crash before the R300 interchange, Coburg Road southbound queuing towards Coburg interchange, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Plattekloof Hill. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
When you're smiling, on 19th September, wear your favorite socks to school or work and help spread smiles to children across South Africa. The sun comes shining through. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za, because every sticker helps fund life-changing surgeries for children in need. Smile Foundation. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme, Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, I started the show by talking about titles and wondering which titles infuriate you. So for me, and it's not just about me, even when others are introduced at an event and all people can say is that so-and-so is a veteran, then it just suggests something. I mean, clearly there can be something more descriptive than saying veteran, right? Which does suggest something long-standing. I get that, but there's something more, right? I mean, the other one for me was just being called an influencer. And then we've had other people. I think we've had someone else saying they just calling me mum when I'm not, or mama, which suggests I'm just much older. And then another one saying, what about comrade? I can throw in Mr. for me as well, because I personally don't like to be called Mr. And I don't expect to be called Mr., but I'm not going to call you Mr. But I'm just saying that because are there titles for you that irritate you when you hear them? If so, let me know. 086 000 2032. Well, what about the title? Or you can WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Well, what about the title about Julius Malema? He certainly irritates and infuriates AfriForum enough for them to, now take their position to globally, in fact, to get him sanctioned, okay? Mainly in Western countries, of course. That's their plan, together with the Southern African Agri-Initiative, SAI. Now, we were hoping, we had a conversation with Ernst van Zyl earlier on from AfriForum. You can listen to that podcast as well. It's been downloaded. Go to sfm.coza. We should have been speaking earlier on to the representatives from AfriForum. Unfortunately, they're not available, which we wanted to talk to, but we needed also to get a political analyst's point of view in terms of what their latest position is. So with me, Sandile Swana, who's a political analyst. Sandile, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. Some of us regard you as a veteran.
And you know what I'm going to say? Can't you find a better word to describe me than that? Point taken, right. So let's talk about, AfriForum, their position regarding kill the Boer, kill the farmer has been well documented, and so has been the ruling on that in South Africa. Then last week we had the issue of hate speech, finding made by the South African Human Rights Commission. Now, AfriForum themselves believe that not enough is being done regarding Julius Malema in particular, and therefore they want to lobby globally for sanctions against him, right? What do you make of it?
The steps taken by AfriForum, the needs that they have are fully catered for in our constitution and in our legal system. So to go and ask foreigners and Western imperialists as well to intervene in domestic affairs of South Africa, which in any case are properly catered for in our constitution, there are many causes. For instance, there are certain groups, cultural groups and religious groups in South Africa that don't believe in abortion, but our constitution and our laws accept that it's allowed. So for you to change the constitution, you need to win votes and have enough votes in parliament, change the constitution, change the laws. We have all those mechanisms are there. And every year there are invitations for people who want the constitution amended. So they are telling us back, because they've not gone to Malawi, to Zimbabwe, or to Angola to ask for assistance on this issue. They've gone to Europe. They've gone to Western powers. So they are actually launching a recolonization program of South Africa, where basically the constitution to them is nothing. The final word on what goes on in South Africa must come from Western powers. That is the problem.
Okay, so look, it's very clear. In my conversation with Ernst van Zyl, they disregard the findings of the Constitution in terms of what is played out, and they find that's not right, and they upset about that enough to want to lobby abroad. Now, it goes without saying, as you've made the point, that why lobby in Europe and not anywhere else, because they believe that will be best suited to their own agenda and their constituency in terms of, white Afrikaners or white Afrikaner farmers. From a tactical point of view, do they have a point? Because I'm looking at the moral stance and the tactical position.
Look, as far as you sit there, even as a journalist, there could be issues that, for instance, pertain to freedom of expression, freedom of thought that you think are not properly catered for in South Africa. And fortunately, because of your age, you know what needs to be done by the community, journalists and academics to improve freedom of thought without going to ask Trump to help you with that. So from a practical point of view, and the white Afrikaners, if you read South African history, have made this blunder time and time again. They were unwise enough earlier on to partner with the British invaders to attack the Xhosas in the Cape. The 100 Years Wars, you remember. They were partnering with the British, and they were sold out. They were sold out by the British. They ended up in the Anglo-Boer War because after they escaped there and started the Boer republics, the English followed them and recolonized them again. And today they want to be recolonized, thinking that they are fighting black people in South Africa, opening the door. Because once you open the door for a foreigner to come and interfere in domestic affairs, the thing that can stop that foreigner from interfering further is not in your hands. It's in the hands of the foreigner.
Yeah.
Because
Interesting.
you've already demonstrated that you don't know how to control your affairs.
Well, interesting. That's a point that analyst Rene Esterhuizen made as well, to say you're actually allowing other countries now to interfere into your domestic politics, and that's very, very dangerous because it also undermines South Africa's constitutional democracy. You concur with that then, yeah?
Absolutely. It's wrong. I would never. That is why in all these instances, whether it's Operation Tudula or any other person, where there are actual full legal provisions of solving a particular problem, you get into a version of vigilantism, or you get to a version of secessionist thinking. In other words, you want to create a new republic of the Cape Province, or whatever ideas are, instead of strengthening the constitutional order. And even if it takes you 10 years to get to your goal, but use the mechanism that we as a nation have already agreed upon.
Now, we know what AfriForum wants to do about Julius, or the Julius Malema problem, let's call it that, right? But what should South Africa do about the AfriForum problem?
The AfriForum problem, there are soft measures and stringent measures. The idea that people take the sovereignty of South Africa and run around the planet, touting it around the planet for sale, the intelligence services and the security establishment need to look into that and to see what can be done from a security point of view with those types of people. From a soft perspective, I believe it was wrong for big business to create an environment where even in the cabinet, in parties are excluded, especially the EFF and MKP. And now they've been excluded in the so-called national dialogue, some of these parties. Because my view is that the EFF and Freedom Front Plus should get into the habit of sitting face to face and debating the issues and debunking the myths, because there are certain statements that white Afrikaners make that are not substantiated by any academic empirical evidence, by any research paper.
Such as?
For instance, there is this lie that is spread out that there was a genocide by the Bantu people. There was a genocide of the Bushmen and so on. But then there is a recorded in the academic literature that the genocide was conducted by the Dutch and the British. If the Bantu had already conducted the genocide and completed it, there would have been nothing to butcher later on. So, and I've shared those papers widely. So those papers are there. When you type San people or Bushmen to genocide, there is not a single group, whether it's Mpondo, Khakhabe, Khaleka, Amampondo Mise, Amazulu, there's not a single group that is listed in the genocide that is indigenous to South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the lies that get spread. And those lies, you need to be in the room. I think it's Ernst Rost who has proved in a court that he's not an expert. And he wants to profile himself as an expert. And the court told him, you're not an expert.
The other part, of course, which they oft repeat and something we talk about, is that we can debate whether, Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer has got its own merits in today's South Africa. But that's not for me to answer right now. The more important one is, does that chant link to direct killing of Boers and farmers or white people in this case here? So AfriForum once again argues for it to say they've got evidence that in fact it does. I've suggested that every other bit of evidence suggests that's not the case.
No, in court, that was dispelled. It was proved that there's no such a thing. There is evidence, and it's a case, unfortunately for me, that I've read from cover to cover. I've read the case, the decision, the judgment. I've read the case, I've read the judgment. So the AfriForum had wild and anecdotal evidence that is not connected to the complaint that they had made. So there is no such a thing that song is actually caused. Even during the time of Peter Mokaba, it has never been like that. Number two, it's unfortunate that I'm talking to you from my farm in Muldersdrift. I'm a farmer myself, I'm a Boer myself. Yeah. So let's then understand that this of farmer, just like the title of chartered accountant or lawyer, has got nothing. These ones are trying to monopolize the title, the profession of being a Boer. They are trying to monopolize it for themselves, perpetuating racial capitalism in South Africa. So that thing of kill the poor, kill the poor, what needs to happen, the actual practical solution is that GNU in South Africa, under Ramaphosa and Steenhuisen, must actually accelerate the establishment of commercial black farmers, so that there are no people when every time they talk about the farmer, the only person who can respond is a white African. That must come to a finish.
Yeah, I made the point about farmer being colorblind. In fact, it's some of us who suggest it can only mean white farmer anyway. Right, you got just 10 seconds just to answer this one very quickly. What needs to happen next, very quickly, in just one line?
What needs to happen strategically and tactically from the side of the EFF, they need to groom young leaders, just like the Boers killed Stephen Biko, but the struggle continued.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Sandile Swana, thank you for your time. A different insight, certainly through AfriForum. Perhaps listen to both interviews side by side, and as always, then make up your own mind. But either way, certainly I have a sense your pulses are racing as expected. This is the National Pulse.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 175 gram Protex soap, any two for 24 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 100 ml Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection toothpaste, or 150 ml Triple Action, any two for 42 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Let us celebrate #Izinja Zegame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial education. So in many ways, this is so linked to what we talk about next, right? The concept of economy is care. What does that really mean, right? Why has South Africa's debt ballooned? And I would think about South Africa as a country, and I would think about you because it goes back to you personally. And under what conditions could borrowing expand dignity and opportunity instead of cutting back? Now, all these are questions. They're part of an ongoing dialogue series facilitated by the New Economy Hub and Oxfam South Africa. And the key around that is to reimagine economic policy through the lens of justice. So with me is the director of the New Economy Hub, and that's Sekhutlane Phamori. Appreciate your time. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
So much for having me, Ashraf. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you all.
Much appreciated. Perhaps let's get to the latter part of it, right? This need for a rethinking of South Africa's economy as it impacts, the national fiscus, and then, of course, by implication, every one of us.
Yes, absolutely, Ashraf. We find ourselves in a situation locally as well as globally where there is global economic stagnation. Now, in South Africa, we find ourselves in a very particular quandary where, at the very best, we're looking at about 1.5, 1.8% growth, while some investment companies and economists have been suggesting that we're actually looking closer to the 0.8 sort of region of growth just in the coming year. So all of this comes together to really create an untenable situation in which not only is our economy contracting, but the direct impact of that means that we are probably going to see job shedding, less investment in our country, and the proliferation of our triple challenge of structural and racialized inequality, unemployment, and multidimensional poverty. So it's all the more important for us to really be thinking about what are the terms on which we build or reignite our economy. What is it that we have to be valuing and focusing more on? And our firm belief is that it needs to be focused on this idea of a care economy. And this is why we are positioning this dialogue series that we're proposing around the idea that economy is care.
Okay, I'll get back to what does that mean. Let's talk about the actual dialogue series. So what is the form of this series?
So the dialogue series will run over 10 weeks. It's effectively 5 dialogues, one every second week, hosted in person here in Johannesburg, where I'm based. We are convening 5 hosts. These are practitioners in the field of, economics, particularly development economics. Some of them are campaigners, some of them are activists. But the idea is that our hosts would then host a panel or a discussion with other practitioners, some of which they agree with, others which they disagree with, to really help us think through these ideas. There are some received logics that perhaps don't make any sense. There are some contestations that are unfolding. And what's really important for us is that we're able to model a very clear and coherent dialogue and debate around some of the ideas we think are the gospel, but perhaps are not. The first dialogue that we had 2 weeks ago was hosted by Dr. Lebohang Pheko, and it was really about focusing on or rethinking this idea of GDP as the sole measure of whether our economy is growing and what the value of our economy is. So she really focused on things like how we need to value time, how we need to value the care work, the unpaid care work that women are doing, caring for their families, doing social reproduction, the time that is spent queuing for public services, and how it is that we might want to reinvest in that. This week, we're going to focus on debt and discipline, understanding what drives debt in our country. Why is it that we are sitting at somewhere around 78% of GDP in terms of our debt stock? And what are the implications of that? And what should we be doing to reverse that? We'll have a further conversation around taxation, taxing fairly, spending justly. That'll be hosted by Togo Madongo. We will then have another one on monetary policy, money power. Who gets to set monetary policy? Who gets to implement it? Should we be nationalizing the Reserve Bank? What are the implications of that? And then in the last edition of our series, we'll have a discussion with Ayama Lagawe, who will then really be posing the question, so whose economy is it anyway? And what do we need to be doing to reclaim it as a society so that we really entrench this idea and this aspiration towards a care economy in South Africa?
So as I listen to it, I'm saying from the first name you mentioned, Lebohang Pheko, in terms of where she comes from, I'm saying, hold it, man. I need to watch and listen to the whole lot of them, whether I'm there in person or whether I can watch it, as a rewind on some YouTube platform of sorts, right? So that brings me to this point. Is it open to the public? Do they have access to it either in person or via digital?
Yes, it certainly is open up to the public. So if you are based in Johannesburg, please join us every second Sunday. So this Sunday, certainly, and then 2 weeks from now on a Sunday from 2 o'clock until 5:30. It's open to the public. There is no entrance fee. It is catered. And we will then also have an accompanying cultural act. This week we'll have the Malcolm Gianni Trio, who come with a values alignment. These are what we do with all of our cultural acts. They're values aligned, they're interested in the questions, and then they interpret the discussion and the debate and the issues through either music, performance, and that sort of thing. So it's not just a talking heads show, it's also a social space, a democratic, open space for us to connect with other values aligned people who are interested in these kinds of ideas. Online, you can follow what we've been doing on our LinkedIn page, New Economy Hub. Otherwise, you can also then look at our YouTube page, New Economy Hub, also, and you'll find there that the wrap-up of the first dialogue we had with Dr. Pego, inviting myself and then also Mr. Russell from the Rural Health Advocacy Project to really have this conversation, and then you can see what we did, what we do, and you can join us along the way as well.
Well, I'm definitely going to follow you, but feel free, by the way, to tweet it out as well. Just tag SAFM Radio and myself on all the social media platforms, including LinkedIn, by the way. Happy to share that. Just the last thing in 30 seconds, in terms of your understanding of when we say economy is care, what does that mean?
So the idea of the care economy grows from an African feminist economics and global justice movements, right? It's about challenging this idea that, we've got to stick with traditional growth models that privilege profit and elites over people. And it also argues that we actually need to be serving the needs of people and the planet, understanding that the economy is how we exchange value, and what we value is how we care for one another, in the way that we account for time and people's time, and how we account for unpaid labor, which is often carried by women and girls, how we account for actually investment into people's education, into their healthcare and so forth, so that we can be able to build a care economy that positions people so well to be able to participate in a global economy in order to care for others, as opposed to only accumulating wealth to the exclusion of all.
Okay,
this is what we really want to realize in our society.
Your time is up, but the need to have a care economy, the time is not up. Maybe the time is now, right? Much appreciate your time. Remember the name New Economy Hub. The director of the New Economy Hub is Sekotlani Pamodi. Appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news heads. It's 5:30. Here's Greg House.
In the headlines, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation lauded the coordinated effort of the Business 20 task team. The dome tent, the structure used by Parliament to host sittings of the House, could be functional and ready for use by January next year. And Italian fashion designer Giorgio Armani has died at the age of 91. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 eastbound in Etwatwa is where a crash is reported.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
So we've been asking the question to me, 300, yes, no.
Well, listen, we are sitting on 278 for 5 after 43 overs, and it's Bosch and Brevers at the crease. So I'm hoping that at least by the time we get to 250, we have reached that 300 mark. But moving on to rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has named his side to face the All Blacks in a rugby championship test at Eden Park in Auckland on Saturday. Siya Kolisi returns from injury to play at number 8 with Peter Steph du Toit at blind side and Marco van Staden at open side. At centre is Jesse Creel. However, he will captain the side as he did in the Box last test against Australia. Willie Leroux is also back in the team at fullback, while Kanan Moody will play on the left wing. Handré Pollard and Grant Williams will be the half-pack pairing. Also up front, Eben Etzebeth's lock partner will be Ruan Nortje, while Erasmus has opted for a traditional 5-3 split between forwards and backs on the bench. Young Ethan Hooker, with just one test cap to his name, is named among the replacements. Here's Erasmus.
There's some of the specialness. I know Ireland's always technically sort of challenged, and Australia since the Greg and Larkham days. I always found them very tough to play against. But New Zealand, there's history from the Flower Bomb games since the Cavaliers, since we were little boys watching them. That were the team that they currently won the world again. And when we wanted to get us back onto the map, where people believed in us, everybody, opposition, referees, our own supporters, our own players, it was New Zealand. So, no, I'm not trying to underplay it. I just try to say that, to say it's the biggest game, it's a bit of a slap of the face to the team that's beaten us already. But no, it's massive. No, it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, it's an honor, it's Ari's 100th Test match, it's a big build-up. Rugby championships are all squares. No, it's massive. We are desperately wanting to win this game.
The match is at 9 a.m. on Saturday, South African time. Then the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture has announced that the ministry has allocated 82 million rand to the implementation of video assistant referee in the country. In a statement, it confirms the department says that funds will go to a comprehensive project plan towards training programs for referees, technology selection, stadium assessments, and establishment of a VAR training center. Further, a portion of the budget will go towards providing reliable connectivity at stadiums to ensure seamless integration of the VAR system and overall stadium safety. Then in football, South Africa will look to move closer to the FIFA World Cup qualification as Bafana face Lesotho at the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Coach Chico Bruce believes that securing maximum points against their neighbours will not only strengthen their grip at the top, but also increase the pressure on the Super Eagles.
I think Nigeria is only playing Saturday. So that means that if we win on Friday, that there will be a big pressure on their shoulders, because then they have to win against Rwanda. And again, Rwanda don't have to lose, who may not lose, to keep the second place. So it should be an ideal position for us. But first of all, we have to win, and even with everything what happens in the last week, I'm confident. I know the qualities of the players. We are still strong enough to beat Lesotho, but again, we have to focus and we have to be concentrated. We have to reach our best level and we have to fight. Playing a good game, a nice game of football, okay. When we can do it, why shouldn't we do it? But let's start from the first game, from the first minute, to fight for every second and for every square meter on the pitch and try to win that game. And again, it should be a very good situation for us if we could win the game on Friday.
Well, just 4 matches remaining in the qualifiers. Bafana lead Group C on 13 points from 6 games. 5 clear at the top. Lesotho sitting in 5th place, 2 points above Zimbabwe at the bottom, while Nigeria are 4th, 1 point above Lesotho. Before I go, just to give you an update, South Africa currently sitting on 291 for 5 after 44 overs. Perhaps we could just get up to 320 something.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. Yeah.
Should
so let's see how they'll do. Hopefully we do win today.
Okay. And then finally win a World Cup when it really matters.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow. However, Michael will be here just a bit later on Top Sport. And
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Jimmy, lots to consider as you get to your show from 6 to 7. What's your agenda setter?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We're going to be digging into the B20. I know you have this conversation on Thursdays in the build-up to the G20 summit happening later in the year. We're going to be speaking to the co-chair of the B20 on the recommendations that were put forward today. The 8 task forces of the B20 put forward more than 30 recommendations to the G20 presidency ahead of that summit that takes place in November. We're going to dig into those recommendations and see what we make of where we go to from here ahead of that summit. Then we've also got a conversation with the team at Sanlam. They gave us an update on their interim results. We're going to speak to the Chief Financial Officer of the business and get a sense of that performance. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Standard Insurance Limited around some of the insurance trends they've been picking up in a report they've put together and what it means for businesses in South Africa that look to make sure that they are adequately covered. We've also got a conversation with the team at SAB around the quality control that goes into some of their products. And then we're going to wrap up the show with an SME because it's Thursdays and we spotlight small businesses on a Thursday. We're going to speak to the founder of a business called Incredipeg. So that's what's coming up on the show. Before we get to that, the markets haven't had the best day in terms of movements, especially on the local front. Weaker commodity pricing really driving the bulk of the losses there. If we look at those commodity prices, the gold price still doing well, $3,546 a fine ounce at the moment. The platinum price has come back below $1,400 a fine ounce at $1,377 odd a fine ounce at the moment. Palladium is $1,142. Brent crude moving down as well, so that's a positive movement on that front for us. Below $67 a barrel, $66.90 odd a barrel there. But the impact of those softer commodity prices means that resource counters are down 3.6% on the day's trade. Financials down 0.86%. Industrials, the only positive sector, up 0.08%. As a result, the all share down 1%. The top 40 down 1.3%. And if we look at the currency side of things, the rand also getting a bit weaker against all of the major currencies, giving back ground against the dollar, the pound, the euro, and the Australian dollar. 17 rand 78 is what one US dollar will set you back at the moment. One British pound, 23 rand 88. One euro, 20 rand 70 cents. And one Australian dollar, 11 rand 57. A quick look at Bitcoin, $109,400 odd a Bitcoin. But with that weaker rand, that's still above 1.9 million, so it's at 1.945 million rand. And a quick look at international markets before we go. By and large, they were in the green. A bit of a mixed bag in Asian markets, with the Hang Seng and mainland China being down more than 1%, but ASX in Sydney and the Nikkei in Tokyo were up more than 1% in both cases there. European markets as well. The DAX was up, the FTSE was up, the CAC 40 in France was down about 0.5%. US markets are in the green at the moment, 0.5% in the case of the Nasdaq, 0.25% in the case of the S&P, and about 1/3 in the case of the Dow Jones. We're going to look at these and other market movements a little later on and see what we make of them. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Oh, perfect. Perhaps if we talk about big brands, do something on Giorgio Armani, because he's passed on at the age of 92 and he built a global brand to the point where just mentioning his name conjures up all sorts of emotions that people can connect with. Another person that will conjure up emotions is John Carney. He's my guest tomorrow in the Fireside Chat, 5 to 6 p.m. Do not miss that.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, time now to take your call. So, wherever you may be, you got thoughts, I'm sure you do, on some of the issues we've mentioned, from what I told you about titles that you just don't like veteran, like comrade, as some have said, and mama or mum, and, you don't like that at work, and there's so many, Mr. as well. Here's others on the AfriForum story that's dominated the issues. AfriForum effectively now taking the issue of Julius Malema in particular to the Western countries, really, to try and get sanctions against him specifically. AfriForum is a comment. AfriForum never said that there is a genocide against white people. It is you, mainstream media, and black racist politicians that continue this narrative. Please stop spreading false information. My suggestion, just go and Google to see where did that word genocide in South Africa come from first. I'll leave you with that. Just go and Google it. There's another one. Ashraf, it's very clear that the judges can also be idiots. There's another one. Right. More comments from you via WhatsApp. If you are WhatsApping, please keep it to 30 seconds. Some people are taking a chance and going to 45, 50 seconds. It makes it very difficult for us to play them. Well, here we are.
Hi Ashraf, hi SAFM. There was a song by an Afrikaner musician about a 4x4 bakkie and a very long rope. And they actually acted out that song. So let's not forget that. It's very hypocritical from AfriForum and the likes. Yeah. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, well, it's more than 2 cents. It's a big thought, which is invaluable, really speaking. Point made. Here's another.
Ashraf, your guest seems to know all about history. What he doesn't understand is that, unfortunately, the Zulus nation, going back in history, also chased the Bushmen up into the Berg and whatever as well. They didn't want them around because they were interfering with their so-called farmland, which they had taken from other tribes. So that's absolute rubbish. At the end of the day, Kill the Boer song, sung by Malema, he actually means it. That is the difference. This is Mike from Hillcrest and KZN.
Okay, so that's the question. If he means it, then how come it hasn't been followed through? Certainly by him, for example.
Ashraf, this thing of kill the Boer, kill the farmer, hey, it's touching me, Ashraf, because I'm a Zulu person. If you say kill the Zulus, kill the farmers, how can I feel? Tell me, if I can say now, kill the colored, kill the farmers, how can you feel? Even this petty guy, he must think, man. He must use his sense. If I say kill the petty, how he can feel?
Well, you see, that's the point that many people feel, to say it's really outlived its purpose, if there was a purpose before, in terms of the symbolism around it, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. My take on AfriForum is that they too are looking towards the upcoming elections, whether the local elections or the national elections in the next couple of years, to say that if Julius Malema is taken out of the equation, perhaps there'll be a bigger pie for them or any of the racist parties for that matter. That's my take. Thank you.
Just explain that. How would there be a bigger pie for, well, AfriForum is not a political party, but fine, let's say they're aligned to a party. How would there be a bigger pie for them if Julius Malema is out? Meaning, where does that voter that goes? Who stands to gain from the EFF not performing in the next election or being eliminated from the next election? Yeah.
Ashraf, JJM Stakespread. To me, the Constitutional Court should have gone further and cautioned Malema that words have a meaning. Like the way the apartheid South Africa say eliminate, they were killing, that was killing the people. So words have a meaning. So Malema should have been cautioned that don't sing it here now. Time is finished for it.
Okay, you think there should have been a cautionary with the ruling? I mean, what do you make? By the way, Giorgio Armani, how much do you know about him? I certainly know. What is this called? Emporio Armani. Like, no matter where you go in the world, even if you never bought his suits, I certainly felt them. The cloth was outstanding, and I have a good appreciation for good tailored men's clothing, right? But I mean, there's no question that his name is global, and there are many like that, right? Can you imagine having this global brand, no matter who you are? I had a chat with the guy, Chepo, the founder of Chepo Jeans, right? Now, just think about it, in 100 years' time, that the whole world talks about Chepo Jeans in the same way. I mean, that's the big challenge for South Africa. Shata in Cape Town, hi.
How are you?
Yeah, good talking to you. Go for it. Your point?
Ashraf, what is the good thing that's come this AfriForum and the Freedom Front Plus thing going to the US and the Western powers?
Yeah.
Is that Freedom Front Plus is going to win back many African votes. And you know what that's going to do? It's going to weaken the DA, especially in areas of the Garden Route. The DA is going to be weak, and there's going to be competition in terms of politics there. Black people and colored people can finally now have their way in those areas.
Okay, so that's your theory, Shatta. Thank you for that. I wonder. Okay, I'll leave it at that because it is your theory. I wonder who buys into that, Shatta in Cape Town. There's more around the issues that we've touched on. Here's one.
Good afternoon, SAFM. It's Ronnie here in Kimberley. Can you please get us the Minister of Transport to come and explain to us, please, about this issue of licenses? Because we did the renewals of these licenses here temporarily, PRTPs, but now they are expiring. So at whose expense are we going to be renewing these licenses? Because they don't even tell us what's going on about this license machine. Please, I thank you. Maybe if you can get us them so that they can explain to us. Thank you.
Okay, maybe it's a point I'll bring to Temba and Keys producers around that issue. Thank you for that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, there's a caller that just called. He says he's a Zulu person. And then he's questioning the issue of, I think he wanted to say, how is he going to feel if somebody singing Kill the Zulus?
Yeah.
But the farmer anybody can be a farmer. And then the farmer, they are not referring to white people. And then you cannot fight Malema over a song that was sang over the struggle. That was a struggle song. And it's a pity because no black has ever killed they were just singing. Whereas white people were actually doing the killing during that apartheid era. So they mustn't come and act as innocent. Thank you, KG in Kuruman.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, look, that's been the line that many of us have spoken about. In fact, AfriForum challenging that, although constitutionally that's not the case. So, I mean, you're right. But the question then, the moving beyond that, and you're right, it says kill the Boer, kill the farmer. It doesn't talk about white people. And now they talk about it. They argue that they're talking about a class situation. So when they say kill the Boer farmer, it refers to a position of a person in a position of power who oppresses economically, which many people would agree with, that there's an economic revision in the world that we must have. You heard the chat I heard earlier on with Sekotlani Pamodi from the New Economy Hub. And of course, there's the Rethinking Economics conference that actually starts, I think, tomorrow at UJ over the next 4 days or so. George Inermino will get to you next.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Abapemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Cello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Let me ask you one question. What's the one issue that on all the talk shows on our station we just don't talk about? And you also wonder why. Like, why don't we talk about it? Tell me. George Inermino, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you well?
Yeah, good indeed. What's your point?
My point, Ashraf, is if I can borrow the word enlightenment, it's a political enlightenment.
Yeah.
Which sometimes goes hand in hand with political atmosphere of the country as we speak and the language of AfriForum. I can tell you one thing, Ashraf, if there were to be 4 or 5 white people who, by some fluke of whatever, passes away in the hands of black people, you won't be surprised to find one of the American, what do you call this thing, the carriers that they use when they invade Iraqis and all those places, okay, camped in Cape Town. Just at the back there of the Atlantic Ocean, you'll find it camped there because AfriForum is capitalizing on the Trump administration. They are flooding the world with negative things about the country South Africa. A very few of our black brothers, some of them, they don't understand this. If you look at the partitioning of this, something Fontaine in Pretoria, you have got Oranje. It will not be long before you have your Cape Town where you're going to need and require a passport to go to Cape Town. Our people, Ashraf, I'm not standing here defending political party A, B, or C, but I can tell you right now, the gospel that we have on radio morning, noon, and night, drop the ANC, drop the ANC, drop the ANC. It will happen. And the other thing will hit the fan. Then you will say, wow, we thought the ANC was bad. This is worse.
All right, George. Well, I'll tell you what, a very enlightening conversation with you, George. Keep it going. In Kululeko, in Dan Hauser, you put your town on the map. What's your point?
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed, man. You?
No, I'm good. Ashraf, it's quite painful that people are criticizing the struggle chant, kill the poor, kill the farmer, and they are saying it is sending a message for black people to kill white people. In the same sense that that chant has been labeled as a perpetuating a hatred between the two races. But what our people are forgetting is that the stem that is sang in South Africa, the national anthem, the stem, was sang during the dark days of apartheid when the white people of that time were killing and torturing our black people. And right now they are blaming Julius Malema for chanting the struggle chant and all that, and they are labeling him. I wish our people can go deep into the history of this country before they can open their mouth.
Okay, I got that. Listen, you make an interesting point. You see, if the context of kill the boer, kill the farmer was meant for a certain context at that time and not meant literally, then you have to look at like the words of the stem, which actually the words don't talk about killing at all. It's very aspirational, but you may wonder, like in terms of the compromise we made. I can tell you now, I certainly sing it now as part of our national anthem because it's my country's national anthem. But when I was a lightie, we knew that when the stem is played, that's the enemy's song. It is very, very clear. There's no other way to put it. Okay? That's it. I mean, in fact, I recollect many occasions where people would literally swear it out aloud wherever they could. But of course, you know, it may well have been illegal, but there was an anger. So, yes, the words, I think, are very aspirational. The words that we use, because we only sing part of the stem, not the full one of before. But there's a compromise made. Maybe there's a call for both. You know, drop the kill the boer and drop the part of the stem as well, and let's move on. Maybe. You tell me. Mac in Durban, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, good. Go for it, Mac. Mac, hi. Go for it. Yeah. Okay, I think we just lost him. So here's the one we had earlier. Ashraf, you said I must go and Google who claimed first that there is a genocide against white people, and what I found says the opposite. AfriForum denied the claim, and I always try to advocate for farm murders to become a priority crime. I find your show racist today, and I'm very disappointed in you. Well, you see, you're not answering the question. Maybe Google in USA and Donald Trump, okay? You may just get a different answer around South Africa and genocide. That's why I said Google it, right? Okay, do we have Mac? Can we take him? Yes, no? No, we can't. I'm not too sure what happened there. Let's see if we can get some voice comments. By the way, you know John Carney coming up tomorrow, right? In the Fireside Chat. Really looking forward to that.
Ashraf, I also don't like that song. It is inciting violence against white people. Maybe it's time Julius Malema stop singing that song. Thank you. It is Sandy Soye from Seoul.
Thank you. I wonder if that is going to be part of a conversation as part of the national dialogue. AfriForum saying in the earlier conversation, they got plans, they're mobilizing to have their own national dialogue from parties that are not part of the national dialogue. That means part of the EFF as well? No, that's not going to happen.
Hello, Ashraf Uvusi Lushaba in Durban. Allow me to simplify my response. We will keep singing that song for as long as we are compelled to sing the stem. It's as simple as that.
Okay, got that. And here's the last one we're going to play. It's about varsities, the conversation we had.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Grant here from the Free State. Just listening to the gentleman chatting. I think the big thing is there's far too many. It's like fashion to go and study at varsity. The last 10 years, everyone wants to go to varsity. So the market is saturated. People need to look at doing trades. Plumbers, electricians. There's such a shortage of that. I just don't know why. It's not appealing to them. They want to go to university. But a university degree doesn't mean much anymore. The market is saturated.
Okay, doesn't mean much. There are many people unemployed. I get that. The question is, the broader question, is our education system first fit for purpose? In fact, I got a book today from someone about how to fix South Africa's education system. I need to read the book and then comment about it sometime soon here on air. Right, that's the show. That's the National Pulse. What is the National Pulse? What moved it today? You can work out the answer. I think some days are just so obvious indeed. Thanks for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow. Right now, it's 6 o'clock. Here's the news with Greg.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Minister speaks on Business 20 task team and Armani passes away. Good evening. The Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, has lauded the coordinated effort of the Business 20 task team in completing key recommendations which aim to resolve some of the major challenges facing the African continent and the globe. This as South Africa gears up to host the G20 summit later this year. Lamola delivered the keynote address at the B20 recommendations handover event in Sandton, north of Johannesburg.